Yay, we made it. We made it. Oh my God. Oh, we made it. Okay. I should have got some more coffee. Yeah, wait a minute. I'm out. Look, but you can see the little froth. I got it. Oh shoot. Hold on. Gosh, I spilled it on me. Hold on a second. Good thing I just have. Oh, hold on, guys. I spilled it on me. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Sorry, my shirt's all wet. Okay. How pale do I look? I need to get some sun. I'm gonna get some sun tomorrow. Look, hey, you remember who's the one that gave me that? I never got it to like put on your hair for like so when it's dry and it looks like straw. I feel like I want to get that and I can't find the email. I need to just order it so I have it. Okay. How's everybody doing? Elevin, I'll say, what are you laughing at? Hope G, I'll say, say. Um, okay, so let's do how many. I think I want to start out with have you guys seen Xana's mom's interview? How she talks about like finding Jesus and put a one if you've seen it and put a two if not. She's actually looking good. So, because remember, she had done an interview I don't know, last year or a year or so ago, and she kind of looked, she was an addict, and you could tell, and she looked kind of rough, right? So she looks a lot better. So I don't know if she's, sober now and she's, I don't know, but I think she is. So it looks like she's doing good. She looks a lot better, a lot healthier, I should say. Um, oh, good. So you guys haven't seen it. Cool. Let me put in my earphones. We'll get started. If anybody wants to come up on panel, let me know. I'm not going to put the link out there yet. It'll be like a last resort thing. Actually prefer if like somebody people just personally tell me they want to come, I can send it to you. Because I always have that thing where people want to the whole flashing thing and I make people show your face. I don't know. I mean, we could still do it that way, but I would love to know like somebody says, hey, I want to come up, but then it's like, okay, cool, I'll send you a link. That'll work the best, I feel like. But if nobody ends up saying it and we're getting towards the end, I'll put up the link out there. Okay, so let's do Xana's mom first. Um, where the heck is it? Hold on. Here it is. Okay. Let me share my screen. All right, here we go, guys. Everything has seemed to be much louder, I feel like. So just, it's going to maybe be loud. All right, here we go.
I want to really just thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I know this has not been an easy journey over the last couple of years, and there has been constant media attention. Most recently, Brian Koberger taking a plea deal, and in the midst of this, losing your daughter, and again having so much public attention. I want to get into your faith and into your journey and what this has been like. But I want to first start by talking about this plea deal. What was your initial reaction to it?
Oh, I was shocked. I was actually up camping with our church. So we didn't have cell service. I had got the information because a friend of mine had gone up the mountain to check his messages where he could get a signal. And him and his wife had told me when he got back to our camp. And I was just very shocked and confused. Because here we had this man who was proclaiming his innocence this whole time. So there's been a lot of questions surrounding the case this whole time. A lot of unanswered questions. It's been very confusing, and that alone I know is not of the Lord. So it's been very hard for me to just focus on the Lord, but I have. But when I found out, my initial reaction was a little bit angry, because I just felt like it was just too easy for him to just admit that he did it and not have to give an explanation or answer our questions. And here we have been planning on going to this trial, and that's not something you look forward to.
Yeah.
But I think that all of us were wanting answers, and so the trial maybe was going to answer some questions. And so you feel kind of cheated.
Yeah.
So that was my initial reaction. But I know that the Lord had me right where I should be, around my church family. And my pastor was up there. One of my pastors, John Padula, was up there, and him and his wife came around me and prayed for me. And my church family was able to pray over me. And the Lord is just so good in helping me to understand that it's okay that I don't know everything. And that likely is for my protection. So I may never know all the answers that I want. I may never know. And I know now that that is God's protection, and that even if I were to know why he did it or all the details, what is it going to change? Is it going to make me feel better? No. It's a senseless crime to take my beautiful daughter's life and her friends. And the more information we find out, the more questions we have. And there's never going to be a good enough reason for why it happened. There's never going to be a good reason for that. So I believe that if we are supposed to know, we will know.
And seeing,
And
I mean, the way that you spoke about this in other interviews, seeing the blessing in the midst of that, right? Coming to a place of understanding that protection you just talked about. Um, as a parent, I can't imagine what you've been through, right? But what you're saying is so true. It doesn't change the end result, but if you are meant to know that, God will reveal that to you. You will find out if you're meant to know it. How have you navigated? I mean, you talked about your faith and being with your church community when this news came down recently. When you go back to when this first happened, where was your faith then? Where is your faith now? How has it sustained you through the unthinkable?
I mean, when it happened, I was in a bad place. And bad went to worse after it happened. I wish I could say that that was my aha moment, that is when I ran towards Christ, but I ran towards drugs and alcohol instead, and ended up getting to a place where I knew that I was either going to die living the way that I was, or I could draw close to Jesus and surrender and change my life and hopefully be able to show others Christ through this trauma that I've experienced, and the Lord is walking me through. But I can't say enough how much the Lord has changed my life and how much peace He has given me through all of this. It's a constant battle. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual powers, spiritual wickedness. So when you really look at that and understand that this is a spiritual battle we're fighting, it really
Ephesians
helps
6.
to
Ephesians 6, right? It tells us right in
get
Ephesians 6. Yeah,
the armor of God,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask you how long? So when Zaina died, how long was it after that? You talked about going into this dark place that you did start running towards Jesus, and what was it that caused you to make that change? Because I think it's understandable that you would struggle in that way after such a horrific incident. But what was the time frame there? How long was it before you did find Christ?
I think it was about a year, a little over a year. And I was arrested, and I had to spend time in jail for 10 months.
Wow.
And after that, I actually turned my life over to the Lord in a jail cell.
Wow.
But I can't explain it. Once I did that, it was like I was free. I was just filled with such joy and peace when I finally surrendered to God and decided that I was going to fully surrender and do it His way and not mine anymore. So I have a friend, Pastor Tim Remington, who has a faith-based recovery here in town in Coeur d'Alene. And I've known him for about 20 years. I went through his program 20 years ago. Him and his wife and his family are just wonderful people, and they just have a true heart for the Lord and for helping people in recovery, getting out of addiction. So I contacted Pastor and asked him to be able to go through the program again. So when I was released, I went through his program, and it was 3 months. And he has a ranch house out in the country where basically it's just a beautiful program where you are fed the word from sunup to sundown every day, and with no distractions.
Wow.
So that was huge for my healing, for me to come to a place of healing and to begin forgiving. And so It's been 18 months now. I've been completely sober. I do not smoke cigarettes. I don't take medication. I am
Thank
completely
God.
free of
Wow.
every bondage through
Wow.
Christ. And there's
Wait, how long did she say? Hold on. I missed how long was she sober? Hold on.
cigarettes. I don't take medication. And so it's been 18 months now. I've been completely
Wow.
sober. I do not
A year and a
smoke
half.
cigarettes. I don't take medication. I am
Thank
completely
God.
free of
Wow.
every bondage through
Wow.
Christ. And there's just no other answer for that except for Jesus.
Wow. I mean, I didn't know all of this about your backstory, right? When I reached out to you and we talked about doing this interview, I didn't know all of those struggles. I knew that you had been on a national stage because of what had happened to your daughter and this horrific story. And that backdrop of everything you were going through, just to sort of ask you, before Zaina's death, before these murders, were you struggling? Were these things, it sounds like that these were things that you did struggle with at different points throughout your life. And were you in the faith before in any way? Were you going to church, even though you were in those struggles before all of this? What was your spiritual life like beforehand?
It wasn't very good.
Yeah.
I was raised in church, but I had fallen away from the Lord for many years and chose to live in my own way. So I had my ups and downs where I went to church and thought I was doing good. But I was always holding on to something of the world. I was never completely surrendering to the Lord. And I really believe that it just has to come to a place in your life where you're willing to just stop doing it your way and surrender fully to the Lord. His way is so much better, and it truly is freeing. I think people get scared when they think of recovery or they think of surrendering everything to the Lord, because we want to hold on to those things, to our anger, to our bitterness, to our addictions. And that's the enemy. We get comfortable in our sin or in our feelings, and the Lord just wants to take them from us, and he wants to fill us with his peace and his love. And it's truly freedom. That's freedom.
Well, and when you found out this news, when this horrible event happened, and it made national news immediately. So I can't emphasize this enough for people who don't understand. When there's a trauma, losing a child is the most traumatic thing that can happen to somebody. Having it be a murder, then having it be a national news story. There's so many layers of that. And here you are, your face, and I can't speak for you, but hearing this story, it's very moving, because as an individual who already is having these struggles, you're faced with a couple of different options, and you ran the other way, sort of, back deeper into these issues. But then you find Jesus in this jail cell. You talked about peace. You talked about forgiveness. Let's talk about the forgiveness piece, because here you have a situation where a person is claiming they're before this plea deal that they're innocent. You're not being given reasons. How have you dealt with forgiveness? How have you gotten to a place of forgiving somebody who hasn't asked for that forgiveness?
Because it's not for them. It's I'm sure he could probably care less if I forgive him. It's not for him. Forgiveness, the Lord asks us to forgive, and he does that so that we don't have to hold on to that bitterness and that anger and that hate, because it will destroy you. And it truly was destroying me. It doesn't excuse what he did in any way. It doesn't excuse his actions. What it does is it releases me from that bondage of bitterness and anger and hatred
Yeah.
that is not of the Lord. That's how the enemy wins. The enemy wins when we hold on to those things, because he got you right where he wants you at that point. So to forgive that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I promise you, it was nothing in me. It was all Jesus. I knew I had to surrender that. I knew I had to, in order to begin healing and to be forgiven of my sins.
Yeah. Yeah. The measure of how we forgive others, when the Bible talks about being, judged by that same measure, that's very convicting and very scary to think about, because a lot of times we don't forgive people. And when you're in a position like you have been in, your life has been totally changed on so many different levels. And it's incredibly moving to hear you talk about your faith. What do you want people to know about your daughter? Because I feel like when these events happen, it's headlines in media, and people are being fed certain pieces of information and not the full story. And you lose the humanity of the person and the victims in the midst of that. What do you want people to know about her and who she was and what she meant to you?
Xana was amazing. Anybody who knew her can see that. Even people who didn't know her can see that. She lit up a room. She was funny. She could make you laugh. She had a way of making everybody around her feel important and special. She was a true gift from the Lord from day one. She loved her siblings and her family. She was just a great, great girl. And she would have done amazing things. And she's missed terribly. And I regret not telling her more how much she meant to me. I regret not being present in her life more. But I know that the Lord holds her now. And I know I have that hope of seeing her again. And I know she's safe in his arms now. Too soon.
Absolutely.
But I know where she is. And that's the best comfort that I have.
When you think about the moment that you in your jail cell accepted the Lord and what came next for you, because here you are, a lot of people would not do any interviews. They wouldn't speak out. They wouldn't share. And that would be understandable. You're sharing very openly, not only the most traumatic event that has happened to you, your love for your daughter, and you're sharing your own journey, which is not easy to share. What has led you to be willing to do that and to so openly share that moment you had in the jail cell all the way through to this faith journey that you've been on now?
Jesus. Because people need to know that it is possible with Jesus to overcome addiction in the worst circumstances. And I'm proof of that. If I can just help one person see that no matter what you're going through, no matter what, it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, the Lord He will redeem you. He will break all those strongholds if you allow him to. If you just surrender to him. If you just give it to him, he will walk you through anything. I used to think that wasn't possible. I would hear stories of people having radical changes in their life. And I used to think that's just never going to happen to me. I just thought it was like a fairy tale. But when it did, in the darkest time in my life, after my daughter had been murdered, and then I'm sitting in a jail, and I mean, life just couldn't get any worse at that point for me. I was so broken, and how the Lord can take you when you're so broken and make you whole again. So that's just what I want to share. I just want to share that with the world. And it is hard. It's not something that, you know, this platform isn't something anybody ever asks for or wants. But if I can share Jesus with others through it, then that's what makes it worth it. Because I just want others to know how much Christ loves them. He's not a respecter of persons. It's not just for me. He can do this for anybody, no matter what your circumstances are. So that's what I would like people to know.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing, because I didn't know that we would go into so much depth in your story, and I'm really glad that we did. I think you're incredibly brave on so many levels. I think it's incredibly difficult to change your life, but anything is possible with Jesus. And just as you're saying, it is so true. It's incredibly difficult to forgive. Anything is possible with Jesus, especially when you've gone through what you have gone through. And you getting on here and sharing your story and being so vulnerable so that you can help other people. There are people out there listening or watching right now, whether it's them or it's a relative, a loved one, a friend who are going through what you were. I just thank you for sharing about your daughter. And, I guess the final thing I will ask you, what is next now? Because this plea deal is there, this opportunity for peace. What's next in your life when it comes to this chapter? Is this chapter now closed? Do you move forward? What happens next for you and your family?
Well, I pray for restoration in my family. Number one. Also, I just want to share, I want to keep sharing my story, Xana's story, because it's so profound what Christ is doing. And he's not done yet. He will be glorified in all of this. And I believe in a lot of ways he already is. So if I can just keep sharing what the Lord has done in my life so that I can help others who are caught in bondage of addiction or bitterness or unforgiveness or any of those things that we hold on to that keep us from Christ. And I just want to help people get to know who their Savior is. If I can just point them to Christ.
Well, I love that. And you're doing a beautiful job of doing that by sharing your story. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
The publicity in this.
1 second, guys. Okay. Wow, that was a good interview, huh? Let's see what this popped up. This wasn't on my list to play, but I just saw this pop up. Let me see what it says. It's titled "New Book Says Brian Koberger Stole Money During Drug Addiction."
Just when you thought you knew everything about Brian.
Oh, hold on. 1 second, though. Okay.
Koberger slaughtering 4 University of Idaho students comes this. A new book reveals when he was younger, Koberger was a cat burglar who broke into homes to steal cash to support his drug habit.
Brian Koberger, a cat burglar? New information about the killer says he would creep into his friends' homes to steal money to feed his heroin addiction when he was in his teens. Koberger was never caught and apparently drew on the skills he learned breaking and entering when he slaughtered the 4 University of Idaho students.
He's got all the knowledge and experience to know how to commit the perfect crime. And it almost was.
Vicki Ward is the co-author of the Idaho 4, An American Tragedy, with legendary writer James Patterson. She says Koberger's life was in a downward spiral.
He had ironically overcome a lot of obstacles: heroin addiction, poverty, being an outsider, being very overweight. Yet he got himself into a PhD class at Washington State University, but he could not keep his misogynistic views about women to himself.
Complaints from women at Washington State University, where he was a teaching assistant in criminology, had put his career in jeopardy.
You saw his professional career unravel, so that by the time of the night of the murders, he's got nothing to lose.
The book says his primary target was Maddie Mogan, who he may have met at the vegan restaurant where she was a waitress and tried to date.
He may well have asked Maddie out, and she probably flicked her hair and said, huh, not a chance. She did that often.
Koberger was an admirer of the notorious incel Elliot Rodger, whose 2014 murder spree was triggered by an obsession with a woman also named Maddie.
I will slaughter every single spoiled, stuck-up, blonde slut. Guilty.
Koberger will be sentenced to 4 life terms next week.
The new book about the Koberger murders is out now.
Interesting. Hold on a second. I was going to play a couple, and this will be a perfect time because we just listened to Xana's mom talk about Xana. I had collected some of her old, hold on, like TikToks and stuff. I know some of them are, you guys probably seen a lot of them, but there was a few that I feel like I had never seen. Hold on. Let me just mute some of them. Oh, this is a combination. Hold on. Xana. Oh, that looks like somebody made that. Now let me see what the other ones are. Hold on one second. I just want to make sure that it's not okay, yeah. Oh, this is the one that was shown with her and Ethan, like an on like Halloween. They were funny. Aw. And then let's see. That's her, and I don't know who the guy is. A lot of these just have music. That's why I muted them. Oh, that looks like that her. That looks like McLovin from oh my God, I can't think of the movie. You'd like that. I love that movie too. It's good. What movie is that? It's on the tip of my tongue. Does it not remind you? Super bad. That's right. This guy right here. Something about it just reminded me of McLovin. Wait, where's he at? Where's he at? Why didn't that play it if I just go to the end of it? Right here. Okay, let's see this one.
Got this off the website. Mine's from Goodwill.
No, this one I could play. Okay.
Got this off the website. Got this off the website.
Mine's from Goodwill. And I stole mine.
Some of them you could tell that might be okay.
But my vape was found, so we gotta go get it. I don't know where the fuck my car keys are. I won't drive like I could. I won't.
Let me play that again.
Sorry for this, but my vape was found, so we gotta go get it. I don't know where the fuck my car keys are. I won't drive like I could. I won't.
Sorry. There's Kaylee. I guess these were a mix. I forgot I did go to all of them. I think there's some of all of them. Ethan, look like he's having some fun. Oh, right there. Is that him and his brother? Is that his brother next? Nope. Check real quick to see if it's music. That was music. Okay. That's gotta be music. Whoa, yeah, this was somebody else made this. Okay. Oh. Huh. Oh my God, look wait a minute. Hold on a second. Xana? Who the heck is that? That's Xana. Who's that? Oh my God, look how young. Whoa. Wow. She looks so little. Aww. Aww. Let me see what kind of. Nope. Aww. She seems like she's very funny. Funny. Make you laugh. Whoa. Drink it. Wait. Not the one. Ethan. Oh my God. Oh no, no. No, it's copyright. He's trying to. I should have figured there'd be music. Aw, so sad. Like, gosh, stupid Brian. Like, but people like Brian don't even care. Like, he doesn't have any remorse. Well, look how young she looks there in that one, too. He has no remorse. He don't even care. Like, it's just crazy that there's people that exist out there that could take somebody's life and they don't even care at all. Like, it doesn't even faze them. The only thing phases them is the punishment, but the fact of like that they took somebody's life, somebody's family is going to be traumatized forever. And I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's a scary world. Mm-hmm. Maddie and Xana. Maddie and Xana. Mm-hmm. Oh, so they ran away in their sleep. Oh, Xana, and I don't know who's with her. Ethan and Xana. Oh, Xana. I don't know who's with Xana there. Hmm. That was Bethany, right? Or I think. So, oh, look how young. They must have been all friends when they were just little girls, too. Look. Aww. Mm. Mm. Aww.
I was just thinking the same. We are sexy. We are sexy bitches. Yeah.
Right, I gotta do with this sound.
Who are you? I'm you 10 minutes from now. Damn it. You are handsome. I was just thinking the same. We are sexy. We are sexy bitches. Yeah.
I hate copyright stuff that you can't just. Two more left, and then we'll get to the other interviews. I just thought it was kind of appropriate because I mean, we just listened, watching Xana's mom interview talking about her. Oh, I should. Okay. One more. Hmm. Oh man, it's just crazy. What that documentary was so sad too. Oh my god, that night in Idaho. Oh, all right. So let's see. Next, I want to play. Oh, this is the one. I don't know if you guys have seen this on Ashley Banfield, where he talks. Since now there's no gag order, where Steve talks about the like marks on Kaylee's mouth. Have you guys seen that? Put a 1 if you haven't, a 2 if not. But I don't want to watch.
It won't even start to happen until after Koberger is sentenced on Wednesday of next week.
Skip some of this.
And until that moment when the gavel comes down on his case and he's led away to his forever cell, Koberger could technically try to wiggle out of his guilty plea. Or he could file appeals that he gave up his right to file. I want to read to you part of an email that prosecutors sent to the families of the victims. Okay, so there is Supreme Court case law that states if a defendant who has waived appeal directs his attorney to file a notice of appeal, the attorney is required to file notice. This does not change the fact that defendant has waived his right to obtain any relief on appeal and that any appeal should be dismissed. Similarly, while the defendant has waived all rights to appeal, he could still claim ineffective assistance from his defense counsel. The state is not concerned about this possibility or the possibility that the defendant would have any success if he did explore either of these avenues. This basically means, careful, we are not at the end of the line yet, and Brian Kohberger could still turn the screws on us before the gavel comes down. So I'm going to stop here and bring in our national correspondent, Brian Enton, who's been following this case since the beginning. So it's interesting, Brian, as we were all watching this today, I think a lot of people were confused when they heard that Brian Kohberger could appeal still. We all heard it, he had waived his right to appeal. But it's interesting that the defense attorney for Kohberger says that lifting this gag order could affect the sentencing. Can you explain it?
Yeah, I mean, you picked up on the same exact quote of the entire hearing. This was the thing that I picked up on the most. Things happen at sentencing. I thought, what exactly does that mean? And she wasn't really that specific. I think what she meant, and she basically said it, is emotions are high. It's already a very, very emotional time for the families. It's going to be an emotional day. And what is really the point of, bringing more out before the sentencing next Wednesday? But things happen at sentencing. I still don't really know what things exactly that she's talking about. And she said, like, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what she was talking about. So that was interesting. In terms of the appeal, this is something that has concerned the families all along. You know, he signed the agreement that says he's not going to appeal, but the Supreme Court has ruled that everybody has a right to an appeal. And he could later on say, I didn't have a good lawyer. I got bad advice. And I didn't know necessarily what I was signing, and he could try to appeal that way. Granted, it would be tough. I mean, this is Brian Kohberger. He was a criminology, getting his PhD. He clearly knew exactly what he was signing, and that would probably come out. So the chances are low, but it's possible.
Yeah, that collective cacophony that you hear in the background is all of America laughing about the idea that he would even raise the issue that his attorney, Ann Taylor, was ineffective. I have never seen an attorney be more effective on his behalf, including
I was going to say the same thing.
Yesterday, she filed a motion
she did more.
saying, you know what? I think we need to be careful here. I've got to protect the process. I have to be a good lawyer and make sure that he is protected all the way through to sentencing, including the issue of ineffective assistance of counsel. So sorry, Brian, if that's your idea, it's a stinker. You're never going to prevail there. Okay, the thing that also stood out to me in some of the motion that Ann Taylor and the defense team filed was she pointed to danger. She said there are threats to Brian Kohberger, to Brian Kohberger's family, and to court staff. Didn't say what the threats were or who among the court staff, but I found that pretty surprising.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody involved in it. Talk to the victims' families. They are all getting threats. They get harassed all the time. There's these conspiracy theorists out there. There's awful people online. You see them, Ashley. So I wasn't that surprised by that. Again, I don't know if you heard this, but the judge made a point of saying, we're going to make sure that Brian Kohberger's parents have security when they come in, and they'll come in a special way, and we'll make sure to protect them. I know for a fact that not all the victims' families got that kind of treatment. So the judge has really gone out of his way, I think, to protect the Kohberger parents. And I'm sure they have received threats. Everybody in the case has.
I think Bill Thompson, the prosecutor, as well as the judge, he said people reached out to him directly. He said that at the appeal hearing. And can I just say, Brian, you and I probably both are on the same page with this, but anybody who's suggesting that Brian Koberger's parents should be threatened or his sisters should be threatened, there is one person who did this horrible thing. There is one person responsible for this horrible thing, and it is Brian Koberger. And anybody who takes it out on anyone else is not doing this democracy of ours any favors. That is the face you should hate. That is the man who is fully responsible for what happened. Brian, I know you're going to be busy until sentencing, so thank you for this update. I do appreciate it. Also, I want to let you know here that Steve Gonzalez, whose daughter Kaylee died when Koberger used a K-bar knife to kill her, he has fiercely opposed the plea agreement that spared that killer's life. And he wanted all of the case files and the court orders released before the murderer's sentencing, so that he and his family could know what happened to Kaylee and then prepare and craft their victims' impact statements accordingly. And that's not going to happen now. He's not getting that information. And he's angry with the prosecutor, Bill Thompson, for the way that all of this has played out, even today's quote-unquote unsealing. And I had an opportunity to speak just a little earlier today with Steve Gonzalez for my Drop Dead Serious podcast. Here's our conversation. Steve, what was your reaction to the decision today that the gag order will be lifted, but the motions won't be unsealed? Not yet, anyway.
You know, we requested for basically Kaylee, what happened to Kaylee. So I know her sisters want to do a victim statement and address the exacts, some of the things that happened to her. And they basically wouldn't share any information with us on, you know, what happened to her. So I'm pretty used to how ridiculous, you know, not just a gag order, but sealing something that has nothing to do with the victim's rights. It's all about, hate to say it, but it is a lot to do with the media and people being put on cameras and not knowing what to say, or things coming out that they didn't mean to say, or just didn't have a good explanation of what was going on. So they wrap this seal thing around trying to pretend like they're, you know, trying to protect people and doing all that, but they gave out people's initials at the very beginning. So it's just a dog and pony show that we're supposed to pretend like, you know, like there's top secret information inside these docs. It's pretty gross, and we're fed up with it, and we're glad that it's over. And we just, you know, you only got one time to be able to be a victim's advocate and say what you need to say and to address, you know, the courtroom and everyone in Idaho. And they're not gonna let us know exactly what happened. So it's just terrible. You're gonna go in there, we're gonna make statements, and we're like, we don't want to say anything inaccurate. We want to make sure everything we say is exactly truthful. And you know, it's one of those times where they could bend the rules, but they don't.
You know, I seem to recall there was some discussion that the judge was going to meet with families and tell you privately things that were going to be released in the gag order. Is that still a possibility, or is there no discussion of that?
There's no discussion of that. We just, Shannon just sent him an email and just said, are you really going to make my clients go through 3 different agencies to get this information that they want to see? Like go through Freedom of Information Acts for the state of Idaho, for the county of Latah, and then, you know, there's federal ones as well. There's even other states. So it's like they could make it happen, but clearly the willpower isn't there. I don't think they really want anyone talking to the media and questioning. You know, remember these people said that it was a crime of passion, it was targeted, and you know, it was isolated event, all this language. And then they even said, you're gonna have to trust us. You're just gonna have to wait and trust us. And now we've waited, and it's like, no. Well, there was no connection whatsoever that we could establish. So how do you get isolated? How do you get targeted? So I think it's more about covering up some of the mistakes that they made. They don't want to talk about the, you know, destroying the crime scene and how questionable that was. So they just say, well, we're gagged. And now that the gag's over, you guys aren't going to know exactly what we were talking about during the last 2.5 years.
Was there any contact made or any overture at all from the prosecutor's office, the victim's rights advocate that's supposed to be associated with you, about the process going forward now in order to find out more information? Have they at least guided you? Will you have a better shot at getting information than someone like me?
No, they don't like us. They don't like the fact that we question their authority. They don't like the fact that we talk to you guys right now. So I don't think they'll help us at all. They'll try to make it as most difficult as possible because we bring a huge spotlight. You know, if we're gonna read it, we're gonna explain it to people how we understand it, and I don't think they want that attention. And that's probably why most of them have already retired. So. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any help. We don't have a victim's advocate. She's bound by the rules of that court. So if the judge tells her to shut her mouth and don't talk about it, there's an open investigation of the leak, and she's a part of that team. She can't talk to us. We brought up the leak in court January 13th. Gray accused that office of leaking the information, and ever since then, we've been able to prove that we knew about the sheaf and the DNA, CODIS hit, all that stuff before. And you think if there's an investigation, why hasn't anyone ever called us and asked us where we heard it? You know, so there's no investigation going on. They're lying to Hitler if they're telling him there's an investigation. There's no investigation going on because the first person who told you that there was leaks and proved to you by telling you what they've heard, that eventually becomes part of your case. You know, the sheep, we knew about the sheep before it was. We knew about the white car before they released it. They never came and asked us who told us that information. They didn't even try. So,
who was it?
Oh, I would never. I'm not going to give that information out. You know, I really respect the people that actually reached out and tried to help us. They're awesome mothers and fathers, and they cared about their community, and they wanted to make sure that this was done the right way. And so, yeah, we did know some stuff, but I respect all those people, and I would never give out their information. And they're all safe.
Understanding.
Every person I've ever talked to.
It makes perfect sense. You got a loyalty to those who loved you and cared for you throughout this horrible process. In the interim, I kept thinking along the way there would be things that you know that we don't know, and that you were sworn to secrecy because of the gag order or any other reasons. Is there information you know now that I haven't known and the rest of us haven't known up until today?
Most of the information we found out were just people calling up. I've had other officers call us up and just say, I don't know what just happened in the court today, but I don't support it. People so angry at what was happening in that courtroom that they would literally pick up their phone and call us and say, this is what's on Brian's phone. This is what he was searching. This individual was sexually motivated. I don't care what Thompson said. They've got a plan for him. They've got a job role for that man. And it's not every day that you get somebody who wants to be a police officer, is dying to be a police officer, is literally talking to them every single day about how he was going to be a police officer. It's not every day you get a master's degree in criminology that is going to go into prison. And they're going to leverage that. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested in him being locked up in a 23 hours of, solitaire where he's not going to be able to have any influence. They want him to go in there and actually have influence and work with them.
And be a resource for crime fighting in the future?
Yeah. His fantasy was to be an officer, or the earliest one was like a Green Beret or something like that, a Ranger. So this guy's had
I disagree though, because if he's that good that they would want him, they didn't even want him as an intern. Like, they didn't want him even to, you know what I'm saying? So if they really wanted his knowledge, they would have hired him as an intern. I disagree on that. I don't think they want to use him for anything. Like, as far as that, I don't know. What do you guys think? Obviously, they freaking turned him down for the intern. So they obviously don't really think that he has much to offer. I'm a little bit confused. That's kind of, I never would have thought that, but hey, I could be wrong. I just disagree. I mean, it's, just my opinion. What do you guys think?
These grandeur visions of himself since he was just a little kid.
Oh, thanks,
And,
Barry.
I think one of the first things he told the officers when they arrested him in Pennsylvania was like, "Let's get a cup of coffee. I'm working on my criminology PhD, and I'd like to interview you." It's like, this guy wants to be a cop or wants to be somebody of importance. He always has been, and that was part of the reason why we were trying to get them to.
Thank you. I was going to say that. Now the prisoners, yes, they'll use them, but freaking that's law enforcement don't like that fact that he'll be able to help the prisoners. He'll get put to use from the inside, not from like, well, I guess the outside or however you want to look at it. I don't see like law enforcement using them. I see the prisoners using them for, different things, but I guess the only way I could see him helping law enforcement is if he's like a rat, like he somehow, helps them out through like what's going on in the prison. I don't see it. I think if anything, he would help the prisoners. They're not going to use him. I totally disagree on it. I really do. But maybe I'm not understanding what Steve's saying exactly, because if I'm understanding, I disagree.
Take that into account and not plead with him. Don't give him the position of power. Basically dictate the terms to him and say we're not going to accept this unless you prove who you are.
Still fascinated by the comment he made upon arrest. Have you arrested anyone else? Thinking, is he throwing a red herring in? Is he really curious about other possible suspects? But I'm very curious about what you just mentioned, that coming out of hearings, there would be people who would call you and say,
I agree. They do, Carrie. I agree, of course. But that's not what I'm thinking. That's what he means, because that wouldn't just apply because Brian wants to be the cop and that they're going to like make special things because they want his help. That's in general to understand these type of people. Yeah, but that doesn't make him special away from serial killers. Does that make sense? Because I don't get that. That's what I feel like he's saying, more like help with like law enforcement, like help that. But heck yeah, to learn about the psychology behind people like that, 100%. I feel like though, Carrie, that they drop the ball a lot on that stuff. Like I feel like they've missed opportunities to gain knowledge on criminal minds and like serial killers and stuff. I wish they would do more. I feel like they don't do enough because there's a lot to learn for like future, to understand people and to maybe even prevent it. And what's the best way to do it? You have those people right there. But I just feel like a lot of the times they just drop the ball and they don't do enough research. I wish they would do more. But yeah, heck yeah, I agree for that type of thing. But I don't think that's what Steve's meaning.
I don't like what's happening in that courtroom. I know what's on his phone. I know.
Yeah,
What did you
exactly.
learn from those phone calls without divulging who it was who called?
Just weird porn fetishes, but two of the fetishes were in that room: drunk, passed out girls and gagging girls. And those are two things that were part of that crime scene. For Thompson to say that there was no sexual assault, of course there wasn't. He didn't have enough time. Somebody came up there. But why are you defending somebody who just killed 4 people? Why are you not even making him stand in the courtroom and admit that he killed 4 people? I mean, it's upside down world sometimes when you go in those court systems and they're literally, oh, you've been so respectful. You can sit down when you plead guilty, with a yes and no answer. So we're just glad to be done with it. We're glad to move on.
When you said drunk, passed out girls, gagging girls, was there something that happened at the crime scene involving gagging that you heard?
Yeah. That's what we've heard. That's why we want to get all these facts straight. So we don't want to have a statement that isn't accurate. But when you have a prosecution that just is okay with covering everything up and not telling you what's going on, it's hard to be accurate. And they've criticized us for not being accurate on certain things. And it's because we're not getting the facts. Parents shouldn't have to beg to know what happened to their kid the last 24 hours of their life. We figured out everything that we could. We got the grub truck.
That is really true, though. When cases withhold information, that's when all these conspiracy theories run wild, because when you don't get information, then people fill in all those blanks. So like Delphi or this case where they keep it so sealed and, gag order and restrict it, then people don't have what happened. So they try to figure out in their head and figured out what happened. And that's where all these different crazy theories, if they would just be more transparent and tell us, then we would know. We wouldn't have to guess or come up with theories. We would know, at least, I mean, to a degree. You only know as much as you can't know every single perfect detail because only the murderer would know that. But like, they would know more than what we know. So the fact that they were so slow in telling us stuff, like, the freaking conspiracy theories just ran rampant because of it. Not that, I mean, they're always going to have people doing that, but like, it's worse when they're not transparent. It's way worse. And I wish law enforcement would realize that, like, holding back information is why there's all this crazy conspiracy things, because we don't know what happened. Like, that causes that, it doesn't help to keep everything so secretive. It really doesn't. It makes the media's the media's response so much worse, I feel like. But
video before they did, we got the white car, we got the 112 surveillance even before they got it. We were the ones that tell them to go to these cameras and pull them off. I'm sure they already were going to do that anyway, but we got it before they did. So they were just concerned that they weren't in control and we knew too much stuff, and it's unfortunate.
Did someone with the investigation describe that Kaylee or Maddie was gagged during this horrible crime?
I was told that by somebody in I can give that out. That was Babbitt who gave that information.
What did she say? And I just, for our viewers right now, Kathy Babbitt.
There was some damage around her mouth right here, like somebody had like pressed in and like tried to keep her quiet.
That is information we had not heard before. Just want to let you know something before I mention anything more about Kathy Babbitt, the coroner. I've just gotten confirmation that Steve and the family will all be at the sentencing. There was some question about it before. He was so upset at the appellate or the hearing for the plea bargain that he walked out. And there was some concern that maybe he had a conflict with his child's school. And now I'm being told they've got a plan to reserve 10 seats for the Gonzalez family in the courtroom for sentencing next week, and that Steve and his wife Christy and Kaylee's sister Olivia plan to make statements. Now back to the coroner, Kathy Babbitt, the Latah County coroner, somebody we spoke with shortly after the murders, you might remember. I remember her confirming to us on this show that all of the kids had been stabbed repeatedly with a large hunting knife and that they were in their beds when they were murdered. I just want to say my great thanks to Steve Gonzalez. You could hear he was on his way out of the house, so he did that interview as a real favor. You can hear the rest of our conversation on my Drop Dead Serious podcast, which drops literally right this minute.
Shoot, I could just go watch. I didn't realize that. We could watch. You guys interested in watching the rest? I have more videos to play, but I wouldn't mind hearing the rest of that. I don't know how much more there is. Let me see. Drop Dead Serious podcast, it's called. I have watched some of those, but Drop Dead here. Let's see how long it is. Yeah, here it is. Okay. I'll go where I left off. Here you go. Let's see.
Now that the gag's over, you guys aren't going to know exactly what we were talking about during the last 2.5 years.
I can't imagine the frustration that you and Christy and the kids.
Wait, what?
Remember these people said that it was a crime of passion, it was targeted, and it was isolated event, all this language. And then they even said, you're going to have to trust us. Like, oh, it's walking about.
For us, can't imagine what it's like
for you guys. And we said, we're not in it. We're in it for the death penalty. The choice is you could be fired.
Let me go like right here. Let's see.
Had ever been offered a plea deal or gave one? We said no. He was like, Judge Hippler said, well, you probably should at least, look into that. And what's that look like for you guys? And we said, we're not in it. We're in it for the death penalty. The choice is he could be fired at or he could take a shot. Those are the two options that we would agree to. And then we did, we would have, if it would have got to negotiations, we would have negotiated a lot better than Thompson. Thompson negotiated like a 5-year-old kid. He didn't force him to say that he did it solo by himself. Didn't force him to prove that he was wearing the suit or show us where the sheath, the knife is to the sheath. There's a right way to do things, and then there's just, I want it over with because I want my summer back and I want to go retire. So that's what we got. We got a pitiful effort from an old man who's retiring and doesn't believe in the death penalty and really had no right to even be in that room. And it's a shame that we didn't have any other choices that we could have pushed for.
That sucks because he probably would have done that. They probably would have done that where they would give all those answers. It is starting to make me mad the more I think about it, because now that time is past. They can't do nothing. And I think it would have been a no. I don't think that would have been an issue. And then everybody would have had answers like, were you the only one that did it? How did you do it? What did you wear? Just like he has to answer those. I would say like, you say exactly what happened, and if there's anything not answered, like they're allowed to like ask more. Like, you know what I'm saying? If he doesn't explain like what he wore or something, they're allowed to ask certain things that he doesn't answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, why didn't they? That does make me mad, because they definitely could have got him to do that. He does not want that death penalty. He would have done it. So yeah, that I guess I could see how that's bull crap. They didn't negotiate that, because it probably was just like, okay, what do you want? Okay, sure. Instead of not even trying to get him to do anything else.
We tried. I mean, I tried to even hire a prosecutor. I would have paid to have my daughter in a separate case with our own prosecutor that we paid for, and not even made Idaho pay one penny. And it would have turned out differently.
Which leads me to another question. There are still civil avenues open to you, a wrongful death suit against Brian Kohberger. Do you and your attorney, Shannon Gray, plan to mount any kind of action after this, or are you done?
I think a lot of their strategy for this sealing and gagging was because they were afraid of the civil actions. But those are mostly have to be brought up within 2 years. And it's hard to bring something up that you're not been able to even look at. Like, we don't even know who made the decision and what was all done. So I think this was a strategy for them to cover up their tails and the university's ass. And, there's 2 huge universities there. One, they literally sent the students back saying it was an isolated, targeted event. And literally the murderer was hired by one of the universities and was literally in a position of power, who had already harassed girls. And they hadn't even taken those investigations seriously. So yeah, there was a lot, people need to look back when he was fired. He was fired on the 19th. That's the exact same day that the police said that the FBI told them that Brian was a suspect. It's kind of more than suspicious that, WSU fired him that exact same day while he was out on the, back in Pennsylvania. They fired him. So obviously they heard about what was going on, and it was cover their tails. And that's why we have all this sealed stuff, and we're still fighting for the information to come out when it's just 4 kids that got killed in their bed. There's no top secret information here. There's no national security. It's literally people thinking that they don't work for us anymore, guys. They think that we are lucky to be in that courtroom, and they're like a form of royal bloodlines, and they sit there in that courtroom and they tell us how it goes, and how dare us question them, and how dare us know what's going on and question what they're doing. And I appreciate the media, because it's one thing an angry dad saying that. It's a different thing for ex-prosecutors to get on your guys' station and say this is questionable, why'd they tear the house down. There's literally the 1112 video is referencing sounds in that house. So it could easily be that a jury wanted to like reproduce what those sounds would have sounded like on that camera. And they couldn't do that once the house was torn down.
Was there any contact made or any overture at all from prosecutor's office, the victim's rights advocate that's supposed to be associated with you, about the process going forward now in order to find out more information? Have they at least guided you? Will you have a better shot at getting information than someone than me?
No, they don't like us. They don't like the fact that we question their authority. They don't like the fact that we talk to you guys right now. So I don't think they'll help us at all. They'll try to make it as most difficult as possible because we bring a huge spotlight. You know, if we're gonna read it, we're gonna explain it to people how we understand it. And I don't think they want that attention. And that's probably why most of them have already retired. So yeah, I don't think we're going to get any help. We don't have a victim's advocate. She's bound by the rules of that court. So if the judge tells her to shut her mouth and don't talk about it, there's an open investigation of the leak, and she's a part of that team. She can't talk to us. We brought up the leak in court January 13th. Gray accused that office of leaking the information, and ever since then, we've been able to prove that we knew about the sheath and the DNA, CODIS hit, all that stuff before. And you think if there's an investigation, why hasn't anyone ever called us and asked us where we heard it? You know, so there's no investigation going on. They're lying to Hitler if they're telling him there's an investigation. There's no investigation going on because the first person who told you that there was leaks and proved to you by telling you what they've heard, that eventually becomes part of your case. You know, the sheep, we knew about the sheep before it was. We knew about the white car before they released it. They never came and asked us who told us that information. They didn't even try. So
who was it?
Oh, I would never. I'm not going to give that information out. You know, I really respect the people that actually reached out and tried to help us. They're awesome mothers and fathers, and they cared about their community, and they wanted to make sure that this was done the right way. And so, yeah, we did know some stuff, but I respect all those people, and I would never give out their information. And they're all safe. Every person I ever talked to.
It makes perfect sense. You got a loyalty to those who loved you and cared for you throughout this horrible process. In the interim, I kept thinking along the way there would be things that you know that we don't know, and that you were sworn to secrecy because of the gag order or any other reasons. Is there information you know now that I haven't known and the rest of us haven't known up until today?
Most of the information we found out were just people calling up. I've had other officers call us up and just say, I don't know what just happened in the court today, but I don't support it. People so angry at what was happening in that courtroom that they would literally pick up their phone and call us and say, this is what's on Brian's phone. This is what he was searching. This individual was sexually motivated. I don't care what Thompson said. They've got a plan for him. They've got a job role for that man. And it's not every day that you get somebody who wants to be a police officer, is dying to be a police officer, is literally talking to them every single day about how he was going to be a police officer. It's not every day you get a master's degree in criminology that is going to go into prison. And they're going to leverage that. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested in him being locked up in 23 hours of, solitaire where he's not going to be able to have any influence. They want him to go in there and actually have influence and work with them.
And be a resource for crime fighting in the future?
Yeah. His fantasy was to be an officer, or the earliest one was like a Green Beret or something like that, a Ranger. So this guy's had like these grandeur visions of himself since he was just a little kid. And I think one of the first things he told the officers when they arrested him in Pennsylvania was like, let's get a cup of coffee. I'm working on my criminology PhD and I'd like to interview you. It's like, this guy wants to be a cop or wants to be somebody of importance. He always has been. And that was part of the reason why we were trying to get them to take that into account and not plead with him. Don't give him the position of power. Basically dictate the terms to him and say we're not going to accept this unless you prove who you are.
Still fascinated by the comment he made upon arrest. Have you arrested anyone else?
does she know? Does she know that he's on an interview? Like, what does she keep yelling? Is that his wife? It's kind of funny though. What did she just yell? I wonder if she realized he's on an interview with Ashley Banfield because she keeps yelling. Anyway, I don't know why that's funny to me. I guess it's not really that funny, but it's like, I wonder if she knows. Hey, you can't help it. Like, you're at home, you're live streaming, things happen. I totally get it, but it's just, I'm just curious if she knows. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Thinking,
Okay.
is he throwing a red herring in? Is he really curious about other possible suspects? But I'm very curious about what you just mentioned, that coming out of hearings, there would be people who would call you and say, I don't like what's happening in that courtroom. I know what's on his phone. I know. What did you learn from those phone calls without divulging who it was who called?
It's just weird porn fetishes, but two of the fetishes were in that room. Drunk, passed out girls and gagging girls. And those are two things that were part of that crime scene. For Thompson to say that there was no sexual assault, of course there wasn't. He didn't have enough time. Somebody came up there. But why are you defending somebody who just killed 4 people? Why are you not even making him stand in the courtroom and admit that he killed 4 people? I mean, it's upside down world sometimes when you go in those court systems and they're literally, oh, you've been so respectful. You can sit down when you plead guilty, with a yes and no answer. So,
But I don't remember hearing the judge say, "Oh, you're being respectful. You could sit down." I just think he said, "You don't need to stand for this. It's not a thing that's not a necessity." So I don't think he made like a special like a special rule for Brian because you've been so respectful. You can sit down. I think it's just because that's like policy, but that's what they do. You don't stand to say guilty, you just sit. So he's just like, oh, you don't have to stand, we just sit to plead. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it was meant to like, oh, he's been such a good boy and I'm going to do you a favor, just sit down. I think it's just because that's how they do it, if that makes sense. I could be wrong, but I don't remember hearing the judge say, oh, you've been so respectful, sit down. I just heard him, if I'm remembering, he said, you don't need to stand, you can sit down. Because I think that's just how they do it, right? I'm trying to think of like other plea deals. Now every county could do it different anyway, but I'm trying to remember like different people that pled and if they stood up. And the only one that I keep coming to my head, the person I keep remembering is Aiden Fucci, and I'm pretty sure he didn't stand up. He just sat there and said guilty, if I'm remembering. But let's try to think of other ones. I'm pretty sure they just sit there. So I don't think, I mean, I get Steve just upset and I think he's perceiving some things maybe like they're doing it on purpose or for different reasons. I think really he just did it because that's just how they probably do it. But I do get like, I am starting to get more mad as time goes and as I'm thinking that they should have negotiated him saying it. Like they could have. They definitely could have made him do it to tell him like everything that he did. Like they could have, they probably didn't even ask though. It's one thing if they asked, if they're in negotiation, they ask, okay, well, we want him to say every detail what happened. That's our deal. He has to, the allocution, he has to say, step by step what he did. And then, if he leaves anything out and we have a question about it, he has to answer it. And then they say, no, we're not going to accept it. That's one thing. But I bet you they didn't even ask. So that's kind of bullcrap because why do I feel like, I know I'm repeating myself, but why do I feel like they would have had no problem saying, okay, the type of person Brian is, like, I feel like since he's admitting guilt, I know this whole time he's been saying innocent, but the fact that, okay, he's pleading guilty, so he's saying he's guilty. So the type of person he is, I feel like he would almost like want to do that in a way, like to be like, oh yeah, let me tell you my expertise or how I did it. And like, how in the car asking, or we should have coffee sometimes. I feel like it's just like that type of person. So I feel like they really missed the boat because I think he would have done it, guys. I really do. Was he? Okay, sorry. I'm going to push play.
we're just glad to be done with it. We're glad to move on.
When you said drunk, passed out girls gagging girls, was there something that happened at the crime scene involving gagging that you heard?
Yeah. That's what we've heard. That's why we want to get all these facts straight. So we don't want to have a statement that isn't accurate. But when you have a prosecution that just is okay with covering everything up and not telling you what's going on, it's hard to be accurate. And they've criticized us for not being accurate on certain things. And it's because we're not getting the facts. Parents shouldn't have to beg to know what happened to their kid the last 24 hours of their life. We figured out everything that we could. We got the grub truck video before they did. We got the white car. We got the 112 surveillance even before they got it. We were the ones that tell them to go to these cameras and pull them off. I'm sure they already were going to do that anyway, but we got it before they did. So they were just concerned that, they weren't in control and we knew too much stuff. And
did someone with the investigation describe that Kaylee or Maddie was gagged during this horrible crime?
I was told that by somebody in I can give that out. That was Babbitt. That was Babbitt who gave that information.
What did she say?
There was some damage to her. There was some damage around her mouth right here, like somebody had pressed in and tried to keep her quiet. She'd been hit multiple times in her head, and her skull was damaged. We gotta go. So, all right, they're telling me I gotta go. So we gotta fly. We gotta fly out of here.
Understandable. And just for our viewers, Kathy Babbitt is the coroner, so she has spoken with you about these details. Steve, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I say it every time, and I mean it every time. I wish you and Christy and the kids peace, and I'm very appreciative that you took this time to speak with us. So obviously I had a lot of questions I still wanted to ask Steve, but he had to cut the interview short. Kathy Mabbitt, I think I said her name differently in the interview. Kathy Mabbitt was the coroner who I actually spoke with exclusively 2.5 years ago. And she revealed details on my Banfield show on News Nation that she hadn't revealed anywhere else. Like it had been a bloodbath, that sharp instruments, likely a knife, had been used. These were things that we had never found out. And then she never spoke publicly again, but she did speak with Steve and maybe some of the other family members. And that information that Steve just told us about Kaylee having damage to the corners of her mouth as though she had been maybe gagged with a hand or with an implement in some way, that's new. I had not heard that before. And the fact that someone had left that courtroom inside the investigation and called him and said, I'm angry with this gag process. I'm angry that you're not being given information. And I will tell you personally, I know what's on Brian Koberger's phone. There's at least a search for drunk, passed out girls and gagged girls. All of that seems to comport with that being very new information that Brian Koberger may have done that to at least Kaylee. I don't know about Maddie, but it is the very least that he knows, and he does deserve to have the full information. It's very, very sad to hear that Kaylee's sisters wanted to provide a fulsome victims impact statement at sentencing next week, but feel that they cannot because they don't really know what happened to her. They don't have the full story on what happened to her. And I don't think they will either because, and here's the big part, I mentioned this in my podcast last night, but the process is finicky. You may feel as though when you saw Brian Koberger stand up in court and say, yes, I did it. Yes, I killed each one of them. Yes, I'm the murderer. You may feel like, well, it's over. He's a convicted felon. He's not. Shocker. The process is not legally complete until sentencing. We learned that with Ken Lay, many of us in the media. Ken Lay in Enron was guilty, but died before his sentencing. And thus it's vacated. Same with Aaron Hernandez. When they die before they're sentenced, effectively they're not convicted because the conviction isn't complete until the sentence is brought down, gavel comes down. And so we're still in that little nether area, right? We're still floating between, is it still really going to be a guilty plea and a life sentence, no parole, no appeal? We're not done yet, right? I said it last night, Brian Koberger could still fuck with us. He could. He could still stand up at sentencing and say, I changed my mind. I'm going to withdraw that guilty plea, and I'm going to twist the knife even more into everybody in the process, including those families. And so to that end, it looks as though Ann Taylor, his lawyer, filed a motion yesterday to keep the gag order in place whether she wants it in place or not. I think she's making sure that this deal goes through, or at least that Brian Koberger does not have an additional arrow in his quiver to come after her and say, I want to appeal based on ineffective assistance of counsel. So he's giving up his appeal rights, right? He is doing that, but that doesn't come into effect until after sentencing. So up until then, anything goes. We're still in play with this guy. And that's probably a really good reason why a lot of this stuff in the gag order is still in play, right? Still being suppressed from public knowledge. Just in case any of it messes with the process that's in place now, whether you agree with it or not, right? Whether you, and there's so many of you who don't agree with this plea. I get it. Steve Gonzalez, not the least of whom does not agree, but the process could be destroyed. And then we are right back where we started. And that trial date is gone. They do not have that jury pool ready to go at this point because, you know, we're like, time is ticking. So there's so much still in play. I just wanted you to know that don't hold your breath at this point, or maybe hold your breath, because not until next week do we know that this guy will be locked without the key, right? Locked up with the key thrown away, never to be heard from again. Until that time, I think everybody's walking on eggshells, including within the process. I'm not inside their heads. I'm not inside the courtroom. I'm not inside judges' chambers. I'm certainly not inside Ann Taylor's office, although I would like to be. But me thinks that she was being very protective of the situation that she's in right now with him. Not just covering her own ass, covering the ass of the process to make sure he can't come back and say, I want another crack at this apple because my lawyer sucks. She didn't protect the gag order till sentencing. Well, she did that. She put that on the table. She put that on the record. She also mentioned something, if you missed last night's podcast, that really surprised me, that she thought that lifting this gag order before sentencing would throw fuel on the fire of a whole bunch of threats being made to Brian Koberger. I expected that. But also to his family. That ain't right. And to court staff. That ain't right. So she's just putting that on the record that she's concerned lifting everything in the gag order could be a real problem before sentencing for all involved, at least those three parties. So super interesting reading, and it's being made public at this point. And Steve gives us that other side of the victim's family, right? How they're being treated. And it looks like they're not being treated any different than you and me. And that breaks my heart. I always feel like the families deserve so much more than you.
Should I have to see if there's a new, didn't it sound like maybe there is something out? I'm gonna have to go check. I'll go check the site, see if there's anything to read on that. But that's true. Like, actually her going above and beyond for Brian right now is actually securing this guilty verdict or guilty plea, because then he won't stand a chance of appealing for ineffective counsel. You see what I'm saying? So that is good. So I looked up if you have to stand to plead, and it says, no, you don't have to stand to plead guilty. It's common to stand when entering a plea court. It's not a legal requirement. So I think what I'm thinking the reason why he had him sit is because it was so long. It was like going through all of those. You know what I'm saying? If it was just like one count and it went over, I could see. But remember how long reading all that? So that's why I'm guessing he's like, you don't have to stand, you can sit. I don't know. I get it though. I mean, Steve is taking everything like everything is again. It's like, I feel like he thinks everything is done purposely for some reason to hurt them. And and well, he's saying that what's his name wants to retire and stuff, and didn't really do his job and like trying to negotiate. I see that point. That point I agree with him on. But the fact that they're doing something purposely to for some reason, I don't see that. But and like Ashley just laid it out, good reason why the gag order shouldn't be lifted. They shouldn't release it yet, because that could ruin this whole thing. So okay, so when I play the next video, I'm going to see if there is a new document. Didn't she just say it's a good read? Ann's she probably lays out maybe all the reasons why it shouldn't be lifted. So I'll have to check it out. So the next video I'm going to play, let's see, hold on. And then I'll see if that's interesting. If it is, well, I'll read it to you guys. Okay, so we watch this. Now let me play. Let's do, oh, I did do that. Oh, I had that twice in there. Okay. All right. Let's watch. Oh, let's watch this one. But before I do that, let me. Why is all those? Okay. Why does it keep going over there? Okay, that's good. All right, here we go, guys. We are going to watch this another News Nation, but sometimes it's like they get interviews that not all of us could get, and you want to see what the person the person has to say, you know. Okay, so this is where he the intern, that cop that basically rejected Brian as an intern. I haven't actually watched this, so let's see. Oh my Lord, there we go.
Course in Idaho, 5 days before Brian Koberger is sentenced for a heinous quadruple murder, and 1 day after the gag order in that case was lifted. You heard it here first last night. There was frustration from one victim's father that gag or no gag, hundreds of court filings packed with vital information are still sealed. The gag order was lifted, but the docs are still sealed, probably for months. Steve Gonzalez, father of Kaylee Gonzalez, wants all of the documents released now so that he and his family and the other victims know exactly how to write their victim impact statements before next Wednesday. Here's what Steve told Ashley last night.
I know her sisters want to do a victim statement and address the exacts, some of the things that happened to her. And they basically wouldn't share any information with us on, what happened to her. So I'm pretty used to how ridiculous, not just the gag order, but sealing something that has nothing to do with the victim's rights. It's all about hate to say it, but it is a lot to do with the media and people.
Oh wait, this is the same thing. And another thing, though, real quick, guys, the state wanted to lift the gag. It's the defense that wanted to keep it. So why was he getting all mad at the state? No, the state was trying to get it so people could have it, though. So it means the judge that ultimately decided, but like, no. So that's not the prosecutor's fault. They said lift it. There's no reason to keep it. It was the defense that was arguing to keep it. So like, and then Ashley explained why it is probably better if they kept it, like how they're doing it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just thought about that. Okay, so here we go. So like I said, I agree with some of the stuff he says, but we're allowed to disagree just because that's the thing. Just because, if it's a family of the victim doesn't mean like, I feel like that we all have to agree with what everybody says, just like any human to human, you can disagree and agree, just because it's like, oh, well, they're a family victim. I have to agree with everything somebody says. No, it's just like any other occurrence. Sometimes you're going to agree, sometimes you're not. I agree with some of the stuff. I don't agree with everything. I'm not going to pretend I do. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. It's what makes the world go around. Everybody has their own opinions. It's fine.
For the statements they're invited to make, immediate family members are being told by the court to quote, I want to read you this, express to the court how the defendant's conduct has affected you physically, financially, mentally, and or emotionally. Victim impact statements provide the court with information describing the characteristics of the victim, Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan, and all the and the emotional toll of the crimes on you and your family. Now, Steve Gonzalez told us the families are also being told to address their comments to the bench and to not address them to the killer, a restriction that he says benefits nobody but Brian Koberger. I'm joined now by Chief Gary Jenkins of the Washington State University Police Department. Jenkins is a former chief of the Pullman, Washington Police Department who interviewed Bryan Kohberger when Kohberger applied to be an intern there. Later, Chief Jenkins helped police in Moscow, Idaho get a warrant to search Kohberger's campus, apartment, and office. And Chief, it's very nice to have you tonight. We really appreciate you joining us very much. I want to start with you actually interviewed Bryan Kohberger. He applied to be an intern with your department while he was getting his PhD in criminology in Pullman. What was your take on him when he came into your office?
Well, actually, all my interviews were done over Zoom. I believe Kohberger was still in Pennsylvania at the time, but he was going to be making his way out to Pullman for his PhD program. One thing that I was looking for in particular was someone who can develop a sense of trust and rapport with my staff. That's a very important quality in order to be a researcher embedded in a police department, because it's very tough to make inroads into law enforcement when you're considered an outsider, particularly from academia. And he was not particularly personable. He didn't speak in a fluid or conversational manner. And so I just felt like he would not be able to establish that trust and rapport needed to be an effective researcher in the police department.
Did you know right away that he wasn't going to be a good fit?
No, I mean, I interviewed each candidate. I interviewed four for about half an hour each. And it was, a little bit of time that I realized that just his demeanor and his way of conversing, I just didn't feel he'd be a good fit at the end of the interview.
So tell me, Chief, how it went down. Basically, you were called, this was months later, to Moscow, which is what, about 30 minutes away or so, 20 minutes away, because they wanted to tell you that they had identified a suspect in the murders. What happened when you got to the police station in Moscow, and what was your reaction when you found out that it was Bryan Kohberger?
Well, I thought it was going to be another law enforcement briefing. They had held a couple for local law enforcement. But when I met Chief Fry in the lobby, I was the only one there that met him, and he walked me up to a room. And when he walked me into the room, it was full of their investigative team. And I knew right away that there was something significant happening and that it was likely to do with Washington State University. And so they told me that they had developed a suspect and they had connected him by DNA at the crime scene. And then they told me his name was Bryan Kohberger. It took me a minute. The name sounded familiar. It's not a common name. And I recalled that I had interviewed him for that intern position when I previously worked at Pullman Police Department. So I let them know that. I told them I had his resume. I had a cover letter that I could share with them. And so they asked me to keep that information to myself for the moment and not even let my own department know that he had been identified. And so I went back to my department and sent them that information.
So I'm just curious, because you interact with a lot of people as police chief. I'm sure you interview a lot of people. When they said the name to you, how long did it take for it to sort of click like, oh my gosh, this is the guy I interviewed over Zoom for that position?
Well, I recognized the name. I just immediately, I didn't remember from where, but it was probably within 30 seconds. Then I remembered where it was. And I do have to say the hair on the back of my neck stood up, knowing that I had interviewed him. Had I selected him, he would have been embedded with the Pullman Police Department. But to know that here he was, the prime suspect in this quadruple homicide was chilling.
Yeah, thankfully you didn't select him, Chief, because just imagine if you had, and knowing that someone, who's now admitted to this awful chain of murders, would have actually worked in the police department is kind of hard to even wrap your mind around, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. One of the best decisions I've ever made, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So we know that they were all looking for that Hyundai Elantra police all over the state and really the whole region. Was it ever spotted? Did your officers ever spot the car in Pullman?
Yeah, we received a BOLO alert from Moscow Police Department with other local law enforcement agencies before about the vehicle before it was released to the general public, and it was described as a white Elantra between the years of 2011 and 2013. And so after that was received, I sent it out to my staff, and within 16 hours, one of our officers located a close match through looking through our parking records on campus. And then later, the next shift, another officer actually found the vehicle parked at the graduate student housing where Brian Koberger lived. However, the vehicle was a 2015, so it did not meet the criteria included in the BOLO sent to us. So that tip was never forwarded to the tip line because it did not meet the criteria.
Interesting. What about, I've been to his apartment there, the graduate housing that you talk about. I've obviously only been on the outside. But when they did the search warrant, were you there? Did you get a chance to see inside the apartment at all?
So I wasn't there personally. My assistant chief oversaw that operation. Idaho State Police came over and our staff assisted them. But I did hear back that the apartment was sparsely decorated. There was minimal clothes. There wasn't even a shower curtain there. It appeared as if the person who had lived there, Brian Koberger, was not planning to come back.
And just lastly, Chief, I mean, for people who don't know, Pullman is right next to Moscow. I mean, people go back and forth for jobs and shopping, and it's kind of really one community in many ways. How are you doing? How's the community doing? I mean, obviously, a lot of people were expecting a trial. All of us were pretty much. And then this, this plea deal came through. What was your reaction to that? And sort of how's the community doing?
Well, the impact has been
Hey, guys,
significant,
what did
as you
he
can
say?
imagine.
I missed that. I was typing something. Did he say that at his apartment, it looked like he wasn't coming back? Well, that makes sense. Let me rewind it real quick. Hold on.
Expecting a trial. All of us were pretty. You don't know, Pullman is right next to Moscow. I mean, people go back and forth for.
Was not planning to come. It appeared as if there was minimal clothes. The apartment was sparse.
To see inside the apartment. This apartment there, the graduate housing that you talk about, I've obviously only been on the outside.
That's right back.
But when they did the search warrant, were you there? Did you get a chance to see inside the apartment at all?
So I wasn't there personally. My assistant chief oversaw that operation. Idaho State Police came over and our staff assisted them. But I did hear back that the apartment was sparsely decorated. There was minimal clothes. There wasn't even a shower curtain there. It appeared as if the person who had lived there, Brian Koberger, was not planning to come back.
Okay.
And then sort of how's the community doing?
Well, the impact has been significant, as you can imagine. This was just a horrific event. Our communities are very tight-knit. We're somewhat geographically isolated, so we really have to depend on each other a lot. And so it was a significant impact on both communities and particularly both campuses, University of Idaho and Washington State University, especially on Washington State University after Brian Koberger was identified and knowing that he had been living amongst other students and attending classes and actually teaching on the WSU campus. So it's been really tough. There's been a lot of support amongst all the faculty and staff and between the two communities. And so there, I think one of the things that I hope will come out of this as the positive is that how resilient the communities are and how much they have supported each other.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Police Chief Gary Jenkins, we appreciate you coming on with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah. I was saying, was that a comment for Ashley when she said the F word? That actually was like, whoa, because we're used to seeing her on a big either law or News Nation. And I think before that she was on Court TV, wasn't she? Or if she's like going, a guest on another one where she can't say that like she's working for a company, but on her freaking own little personal account, that's awesome. She's like effing. I kind of like that. That was cool. No, I forgot an E. I meant to put the ASHLE because obviously it's not IGH. I meant to put EIGH, but I don't know, was typing fast and I missed it because the ASHLIGH, that wouldn't even be Ashley. But yeah, I just missed a letter. But I was originally gonna put just like how you spell like the normal Ashleys, but then when I was typing it out, like in my head, I was like seeing that with the how she spells it. And I'm like, wait, wow. That she does spell it like that. That's different because I feel like most Ashleys, I don't know if I know another Ashley that spells it like that. Do you guys? All right. So I looked up the documents. There's not really anything that interesting. So I don't know what she was talking about. So the one that would be the newest one because she said it was Ann Taylor's document, right? That she wrote. It's this right here. So it's about the, the gag order, the non-dissemination order, but that's what she said it was about. I mean, I skimmed it. Let me see. It just looked kind of like nothing too interesting, but let's see. So it says, comes now Brian Koberger, blah, 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 blah. Through his attorneys hereby request the court for an order to maintain the revised amended non-dissemination order issued on June 23rd, 2023 until sentencing. Mr. Koberger's request regarding the order is based on the language of the order that had not previously been challenged by the media. Wait, the language of the order? Mr. Koberger's request regarding the order is based on, the language of I see. I was looking at it a different way. So the language of the order that had not previously been challenged by the media, the ongoing publicity regarding the case and threats to Mr. Koberger's safety, 3, blank, and the hold order for all witnesses issued by the court. The language of the revised amended non-dissemination order issued on June 23rd specifically ran through sentencing. In response to significant litigation in the Idaho Supreme Court ruling on this issue, in this case, the court issued a revised amended non-dissemination order on June 23rd, 23. By its terms, the order was to remain in full force in effect until the conclusion of a trial and any sentence and proceedings that may follow unless ordered by this court. After this order was issued, the interested parties, hereinafter the media, raised no further objections to the revised order. The revised order recognized that Mr. Koberger's rights extended beyond the question of guilt or innocence to his right to a fair sentencing proceeding. Regardless of whether that proceeding is reached via a jury verdict or a plea. The motion filed by the media to vacate the revised order asserts that once a guilty plea is entered, that his right to a fair trial under the Sixth Amendment is extinguished. What the media fails to recognize is that Mr. Koberger retains his rights to a fair sentencing proceeding guaranteed under the 14th Amendment. And his right to effective assistance of counsel under the Sixth Amendment in the Idaho Constitution. A defendant's right to effective assistance of counsel extends to all critical stages of the prosecution where his substantial rights may be affected, and sentencing is one such stage. In this case, substantial dangers of prejudice to Mr. Koberger exist up to and through sentencing. As this court is well aware, there have been numerous leaks of confidential information to the press, and the avalanche of publicity continues with the release of the Peacock documentary, The Idaho Student Murders, the Amazon Prime series on July 11th, which we're going to talk about that, and the book by James Patterson, July 14th. Lifting the revised order now, this close to sentencing, would only increase the media frenzy and publicity around the case. The ongoing publicity in the case threatens Mr. Koberger's safety. As set forth on above section 1, the amount of publicity coming before sentencing, even with the revised order in place, is massive. Further release would only serve to gin up the anger and violent rhetoric already at a fever pitch. Again, this court is well aware of the threats posted not only to Mr. Koberger, but to his family and to the court staff. I guess, what does it hurt to wait a week? You know what I'm saying? You might as well wait to sentencing him, really, because why risk it and it messing up everything, you know? At this point, the press has access to every witness who is not an agent of either party. As the court noted in its denial of the motion to vacate the amended non-dissemination order in 2023, the media is not being restrained. Only the parties are restrained, and those restraints are reasonable. Both parties had no objection and indeed sought to have the revised order remain in place at least till sentencing. Court security resources were at maximum capacity on July 2nd, 2025. The sentencing hearing scheduled for 2 days. That's right, it might be 2 days, guys. Promises to be even more taxing on those resources. Lifting the non-dissemination order now is likely to change the atmosphere near the courthouse and may well push security needs beyond capacity. The court has issued a records hold order. After the release of May 9th, Dateline Special on this case, the court issued a hold orders to both parties, and there's some redaction. In the response to the media motion, the state now withdraws its request for the non-dissemination order to be continued until sentencing. The state cites further reflection and continues that, out of respect for the integrity of the judicial process and the privacy of the victims and their families, as they consider their rights to provide victim impact statements at sentencing, the prosecution team does not intend to make any public statements about this case until after sentencing is concluded. The state's promise rings hollow, given the previous leaks from the sources close to law enforcement. Mr. Koberger requests the court to deny the media request to vacate the revised order ahead of sentencing in order to maintain the integrity of the process and the security and safety of all parties involved, including families, court staff, and attorney. The revised order should remain in effect. The revised order is reasonable scope and does not impinge on the media's ability to investigate and report on this case. Maintaining, okay, let me see if any of the notes from the language who is promising not to speak to the press is vague. Does this mean that attorneys, staff members of the prosecutor's office, and or all the 150 law enforcement officers involved in this investigation? On July 2nd, an entire row in the courtroom galley was occupied by law enforcement who were watching the proceedings. Will a third of the courtroom now be allocated to law enforcement, free to provide media interviews as they enter and exit the courthouse? Yeah, but that's all public anyway. So, I mean, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, they usually air those, except for the private meetings, I guess. I don't see why. I can see if it was all private. All right, so what other videos here? I have some more stuff I want to play. Let's see. So we played that. Now this. No, I don't need. Okay, so this is the same chief. Oh man, I wish I would have realized. Shoot, I would have played Law and Crimes interview with the chief instead of Brian. Shoot. Well, no, it's what's her name too. I'm not a big no. Okay, I'm glad I played the other one. All right, hold on. She talked a lot of crap too. Let me do this one. This is the Gonzalez do an interview CBS. Man, but I don't know. After this, I think maybe I'll start to talk a little bit about the documentary. So the day in Idaho. So what I just don't understand, and tell me, because maybe I'm just not in the know, because I'm kind of have my hands in a bunch of different cases. I'm kind of a little this, a little that. So the Gonzalez did not take part in that Amazon Prime documentary. Why is that though? Because they do jump at every chance to do an interview, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but they're not shy. They're doing interview after interview on all these channels. why is there a reason why they didn't take part in that one? Because I feel like that was out of all the ones I watched, that was the most heartfelt, most like it was more based around like getting to know the victims and like almost like I don't know, like that was my favorite one, the most heartfelt one, and it was about the families and the victims and the students, you know? It was more about that than the murders. Yeah, they talked about it, but they talked about it from the side of how they were feeling, how everything impacted all of them. Well, I don't understand why they didn't take part in that because that was the best one. That was so good. Does anybody know? Like, were they like against being in that? Because there's no way that Amazon Prime or whoever made it didn't ask them to be in it. I don't know. That kind of surprised me. Like, what the heck? It's not like they're shy or anything. I don't know. That was really good, though. I really thought that was really good.
On the case of the 4 Idaho college students murdered back in 2022, and Gail's with us with more. Gail.
Gag order in the case against the killer. His name is Brian Koberger. This after Koberger accepted a deal to plead guilty to the murders of the 4 students. The families have waited nearly 3 years, think about that for a second, for a trial that was originally scheduled to begin just a few weeks from now. Joining us now is the family of one of the students, Kaylee Gonzalez. Her parents are Steve and Christy. They're joining us along with their attorney, Shannon Gray. Guys, I'm so sorry that you're here under these circumstances, but I really want people to know your story. You know, when this first happened, it was something that really shocked the nation, shocked all of us. The brutality of it was still something that was so stomach-turning. But for you, this has been a life-changing event. Your lives will never be the same. And I'm wondering, Steve, if you could start us off with how you all got the news and how you heard about the news.
It was a normal Sunday. We were watching football, family all together. We got a phone call from a cousin that said they had family that was down in Moscow and that there was cops in an ambulance around our daughter's house.
Mm-hmm.
While they were sitting there, there was rumors, but basically a vandal alert came out that said there was 4 dead.
Yeah, that's an alert from the school.
Yeah, the college sent out an alert. That's how we found out our daughter was gone.
And the reason why I think this is so important that we're sitting here today, I think most people think the families know all the details of the case about everything that has happened, Christy. And that's why it's so important as you sit here today that the gag order has been lifted, because I'm thinking you all know all the details of what happened to your daughter that night, but you were telling me that you actually don't.
No, we don't. We don't know any more than pretty much everybody else. So with this gag order being lifted, it will allow us to know more of what happened to our daughter.
Steve, why do you want to know the details? Some people would say the fact that he's going to plead guilty, that he will be in prison for the rest of his life, that he will never be released. You won't have to go through the trial and hear some of the most gruesome things that you've ever heard. Why do you want to hear the details?
I think by hiding the truth, we're protecting our killers. We have to show the ugliness of what this person did. We're writing our victims' impact statements and we don't even know what the impact is because they've hid the impact from all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want gruesome crime scene photos or blood or gore or anything like that, but I need to know the facts of what, how many times was my daughter stabbed? Was she choked? What happened? And that should be part of our victims' statement. And they're robbing us and they're protecting the killer still. To this day, they're still protecting a guy.
And admitted to killing her.
Yeah, It doesn't make any sense to us.
Tell me why you want to know that. Why you want to know those specific details. It's painful for me to just hear it,
I want people to understand that we have to hold people to a different standard when they end life. When you end life, you can't. I want school shootings to stop. I want these mass shootings to stop. And I think you can't do that by just brushing it under the table, putting a gag order, wrapping it up in a bow and say, he pleaded guilty. It's all done. Let's just move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can do better than that.
Mm-hmm. Lifting the gag order, Shannon, you say is important too. Why? Because, they know some of the details, but I'm surprised to hear they don't know all the details.
Well, it's a couple of things. You obviously the discovery in the case, right? We now could have access to the discovery in the case. We already had a meeting with the prosecutor's office in this case and asked them for a copy of the discovery.
And giving you discovery would do what?
Police reports, you know, the university, or it's Idaho State Police, Moscow Police Department, the FBI, all have investigative reports, the investigation that was done, photographs, pictures, all of those things that are part of the discovery gives us an opportunity to find some answers that they don't have right now. And then you also have the court, all the filings with the court that can be unsealed. We obviously know that most of that stuff will be redacted to protect the information of those privileged, which it should. But all of that information is very important, and it's important that the prosecution keeps their promise to the victim's family and gives them a copy of that discovery. But because if you have to go through the normal course, you do public records requests through all the agencies, and it could take years to get all that information.
Christy and Steve, were you surprised when he actually finally did plead guilty? Because it's been my understanding you thought he was guilty for a long time. When you actually heard that when you actually heard him say the words, did that surprise you to hear him admit to it?
No, wouldn't you plead guilty to save your life? A simple yes, yes, yes. Get up and do it once. Go sit in front of the courtroom and say yes. I think it was 41 times, guilty 5 times, something like that. But I mean, if you're going to save your life,
I think he
and
has,
not be on death row.
he wants control. He wants to be able to have that final say of how this is going to end. And that's part of the reason why we would have asked for them to make some negotiations and, you know, made him prove, you know, where the weapon was or the kill kit, all these details, because those are the details that the conspiracy theorists would have to be like, okay, it's over, it's done.
Life in prison with no chance of parole is still not good enough for you. Some families say, listen, I'm just glad to.
Yes, see, I couldn't agree with him more right there. What he just said right there is very important. It will shut all these conspiracy theory people up if he can prove, like, here's the murder weapon, here's this, to give these people that are still going around saying he's innocent and all this and that, to give them something solid to see, like, there's no denying this. Yes, like, I 100% agree with that, because he's right. Man, see, that just made me just realize a whole different level of this, because now that we don't have that forever, now he's going to have to see these channels, social media, pop up with all these other channels saying that it's not him, he's innocent, and this person did it, or these conspiracy theories, and it's like replaying over and over all these different things. So he's gonna have to see it. Shut them up, give them, like, here's the murder weapon, here's this is how he did it, so these people stop blaming all these freaking innocent people. I mean, that's one of the things that I want to talk about, my reaction about that documentary. Dude, it made me feel so much for all those people that, and like how, like, these people are coming at all these people, blaming the friends and the roommates and all this stuff, and how they're getting, like, death threats and showing up at their house, or like giving their address out and stuff like that. So right there, that could have shut up so much stuff. That's like such a good point, man. Oh, the more I'm thinking, it's like they really dropped the ball. We're never gonna stop hearing Brian Koberger is innocent. They're never gonna stop doing it. Oh my Lord. It's already starting to annoy me, because they're not going to. That one channel we were talking about the other day, that you said, oh, he took down all his things. I don't know if he put those videos back up or not, but I had come across his video popped up, and he's still proclaiming that Brian is innocent. I just can't with him. I can't. So now they got to continuously see these videos popping up about, maybe it's this person, maybe it's this fraternity guy, maybe it's this friend, it's the roommates, and drives me nuts. I can't imagine what it drives them.
To know that he's not going to get out, that he can't do this to anyone else again. That's not good enough for you, because you think about the type of life he would lead in prison, Steve?
Yeah, he's dedicated his life. He has a master's degree in criminology. He knows that he can write legal papers for other prisoners in
Yeah,
work
I agree.
favors. He can still
Okay.
have influence.
I
This man
agree,
killed my daughter. I want him to
agree.
have no influence in the world anymore.
Mhm.
And he's going to still be able to do interviews. He's still going to be able to
Help fellow inmates, you know, with things.
get them
and
prescriptions. All these type of things will give him a better and more rewarding life inside, I call adult care.
Mhm.
Prison is just like adult care. So it's my daughter deserved better than that.
Yeah, what is it like for you? I know you've been in the courtroom. What is it like for you to sit and see him? I often wonder, I've seen you on TV from the very beginning, Steve. You've been very outspoken, and every time I see you, I wonder how he's getting through it. What is it like for you to sit and see him?
It's disgusting. You know, I hate being in that courtroom. I hate people protecting evil, and they protect evil in there, and that's very hard for a father to deal with. I don't want anyone to have to go through that. But yeah, I mean,
Do you guys feel he's been remorseful?
No,
no,
not at all.
He's shown zero remorse,
Mhm.
not one bit. He's like a robot, a killing robot,
Mhm.
and
Would that be helpful to you if he showed remorse?
I think it would. I think it would be because, you know, maybe he could go in there and say, I went in there for one person, I lusted, I had a moment, I was drunk or I was on drugs, and it just went crazy. That would make more sense.
We still, as a public, we still don't know the motive. Do you all know the motive?
No.
No. And I don't think they want anyone to know the motive. I don't think they want anyone to know when he first came on their radar. I've heard different dates on that. That's accountability that they're getting out of with a gag order and sealing things. I want full accountability.
Do you think they know the motive, Shannon, with all the information that they have?
I don't think they
Prosecutors
do.
and officials, yeah.
I mean, I think they're guessing. I think it's, you know, we'll get a copy of that discovery. We'll have a chance to make our own opinions on it. But I think motive was always an issue. They didn't know what the motive was, right? They knew they had a defendant that was.
Yeah, we hear different things.
Right.
So I was curious. But I can't get over your daughter, Kaylee. Every time I see her picture, it does make me smile. You see the video of her. She was so full of life. And she and Maddie, there you are, Steve. She and Maddie seem to have been best friends for a very long time. How do you all get through this? How do you process it? How do you keep her memory alive? It's nice to see you smile when you talk about her, but I'm wondering, I know it's very difficult.
For me, I
Christy?
focus on the other babies. I focus on
How
right
many
now.
children do you have?
We have five.
5.
Kaylee was the middle of 5. And, you know, we all talk about her all the time, every day. There's not a day that, you know.
Is that helpful?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You know, and we constantly see new pictures, and, you know, we have friends that will send me pictures or text me pictures or send them to us. And so, you know, seeing new pictures are always, you know, the light of our day. But, and videos have gotten really hard for me to watch. I used to be able to watch them, but videos and hearing her voice and like seeing her, you know, laughing or whatnot.
And I'll bet it comes in waves for you, Steve.
Yeah, I focus a lot on the kids. Like yesterday, we brought one of our kids out to New York with us, and it was on her bucket list.
Yeah.
She's about to go to college, so we're just really love being around her. And she's doing pranks, and she's just reminding us of Kaylee all over again. And that's what I try to focus on.
And I'll let you go with this because I have seen you from the very beginning. What would be the most helpful to you from people who are watching you and feeling for you and sympathizing? What would be the most helpful for you?
I would say, I hate to say it, but if any other family has to go through something like this, get a lawyer, fight as much as you can, honor your child to the very end, do everything you can, let the world know that we got to get better. We got to stop doing these killings. We got to treat people better. Yeah. This is no way to do it.
You were right about that. Thank you guys for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Okay, that was a pretty good interview. Wait, what did I ask now, Gerald? I forget. Oh, the night in Idaho. Yeah, you guys, we got 94 people. Everybody say hi. Let me know if you've seen, if you've watched that, A Night in Idaho or whatever it is, because I want to share some thoughts and let me know what you thought of it. So, hold on, let me take this off real quick. See what I'm going to play next, but then I want to talk a little bit about it because I thought it was just so good. I thought, like, I took some notes. Hold on, let me see. I don't think I took a ton though, because Um, okay, so like the fact that I love that that they brought up the well, let me get my next video up just 1 second, then I'll tell you. Okay, but I want to see what the why does that keep coming up over here? I want it to pop up over here first and then okay. Um okay, I want to say something though real quick. So the the fact that they bring up some of the students bring up how like some of these people, some of these creators in community were saying like, it's drugs and it must have been like, oh, the mafia or drug cartel and that theory. I mean, they're still going out, they're still saying that theory. And it's like, oh, maybe they owed money for drugs to students. And I'm so glad that they spoke out on that saying like, they don't even do drugs. Like, what are they talking about? And then Ethan's mom says something like, he asks his sister, like her daughter, like, is there something about Ethan I should know? I'm gonna find out, like, because everybody's saying, like, oh, maybe he's like cartel and drugs. She's like, no, mom, like, it's bull crap. It's like, that's not true. Like, come on. We have the answer. At first we were all trying to figure it out. And even you hear the students even trying to like hoodie guy and stuff. Even some of them were like saying, oh, he looks suspicious because it was like we had no answers. But then once we have an answer and we see like DNA and we just see how all the stuff is pointing to him, and then they're still going on about like drugs and they must owe the cartel for drugs or somebody must have. I've heard so many different things. Maybe somebody broke in and they stole the money and then they were holding money or they're holding drugs or somebody used the drugs and blah blah blah. So they're analyzing like those body cams, which is fine because I do too. But the one guy like had a hunter had the zip tie, and so he was the zip tie guy. They said, and the other guy was just the driver that day, driving people because he was not drinking, and he started getting blamed for murdering and um the friends, and like I don't know, it just like I said, that's why I backed off of that case a couple years ago, or when was it? Has it been a couple years? Yeah, I don't know, for a little bit because it was like once like we didn't have answers and we were searching, but once we got the answers as far as like, it's just like, come on, some of these they were just like really too much. They're pointing at every single person, it seems like. But anyway, I thought it was really good to hear everything that they went through, like as it was all unfolding and stuff, as far as first of all everything, how it all unfolded when the murders happened and how their thought process and everything, and then how it all unfolded with the media and stuff, and then so about like going after the victims' families, and the reporters were all over him. And then the other thing that upset me is, and in the moment, I remember this, it was bullcrap. When it first happened, I remember them saying, like, there's no threat, like telling everybody, like, I know they didn't want everybody freaking out, being, like all freaking out, but like to be like, no threat, it was a targeted attack, no threat, you'll see within time, like Steve said, they said something like, you'll see, as time goes. And then it changed, and then there was a threat, right? Is that how it went? I feel like first there was no threat, then there was, or it's just ridiculous. It's like targeted. Okay, they had no clue it was targeted. For them to say that was a flat out lie. There's nothing they knew at the time that we could see that they didn't even know who it was. That they still don't know really the motive. For them to say that it's targeted was ridiculous back then. So that was just kind of messed up. And it was like, just trust us. Just trust us. Chief Fry says, just trust us. Now, do I think that there was this big conspiracy and they're doing this purposely or whatever? No, they were just like over their head and like, oh my God, like what's going on? Like they couldn't figure it out, I think. I mean, my opinion. I don't think he intentionally was trying to be like, I just think he didn't want to like freak out all the students, he's trying to, but I'm saying that was wrong. I don't think that was right how it happened, but I'm saying I don't think it was intentional, but they should have handled it differently, I think. They should have said, they should have some kind of thing in place where they could say like, yeah, it's a threat, but keep everybody calm or something, because there was a threat. They don't know if it was targeted. And now we're finding out like that was a serial killer type situation. In my opinion, like that was somebody that would probably recommit, because it wasn't like a necessarily targeted. It's targeted as in like he picked his targets to kill, but it wasn't targeted as in like there was a huge reason. It was like he wanted to kill for whatever reasons, and he picked target. Did pick people for maybe he saw her, she waited on him. Maybe she smiled at him. Maybe she gave him a look or something. But it wasn't like a target like that. I feel like he already wanted to freaking kill. He had a plan. He just had to find out who, in my opinion. That's how, he just wanted to find who is his victims going to be. It wasn't like she did something and he's like, oh, I want to kill these people, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that's how it happened at all. So, for them to say that. And then, I forget what I was going to say something else that I just lost my thought. I think that's why sometimes I jump so quick to things, because I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. And I did. I lost the other thing I wanted to say. Okay, so we're talking about targeted. And then, yeah, it was just really good. I can't remember what I was going to say. So the only ones that weren't there. So Xana's, well, I guess Xana's family wasn't. Yeah, her family wasn't on it either. So never mind. So I guess the Gonzalez, but that's not as odd because her family's more quiet. The reason I think it stands out that the Gonzalez weren't there is because they are on everything. They're the first to do interviews, the first to do shows. So that's why it stands out more that they're not there, because it's not like them not to be involved with that kind of stuff. But yeah, but Maddie's mom and stepdad was there, and they're so sweet. I never even saw, that was the first time I've seen her stepdad, but her real dad wasn't in it. And then Ethan's family. I really liked Ethan's family. I feel like it was definitely a good series to kind of get to know the families, and like I said, even the victims, everybody, how they were describing them and who they were to them as students and friends, and yeah, I can't remember, shoot. And the fact that like so many people were pointing the finger at Hunter too, because he was in the body cam and it was at a college party, I guess. I don't know. And he actually seems like he was like a really good friend to Ethan and Dana and stuff. Man, I can't remember though what I was gonna say. There's something. Maybe it'll come out when I'm. Yeah, and them all be like their sense of security was gone, because it's like, okay, so who was the target? You know what I'm saying? So like the family and friends, like, are we next? Like, why are they being targeted? Who's the target? Like, so everybody's freaked out, like the family, the friends, everybody's like, who's gonna be next? So they're afraid every freaking night, and they don't know anything. Can you imagine? And then yeah. And I remember the conspiracy. I remember this with the whole like hidden door in the tunnels, which, yeah, okay, I get that there was that tunnel right there, but there was like conspiracy theories about like, I don't even know, that it was just very elaborate. That was like, come on, this isn't a movie. I know like sometimes life could be crazier than a movie, but like it was one of those things where it's like it just points to the most obvious, we got his DNA, we got the car, everything, it's just people were just, I don't know why, but there were some crazy theories with the tunnels and the drug smuggling through up the tunnel, and then they got him. They went out under the. I don't even know. I I can't get behind any of that. I was like, peace, I'm out. I'm going to another case. I can't do this. It was making me so mad that I didn't want to like blow up or like talk crap about anybody. I just was like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of this. Oh, it was okay. I don't know. I didn't want to say. I thought, okay, maybe there really are tunnels in that door, but maybe that was all a lie. I know the theories behind what they thought they did with the tunnels were crazy, but you're saying that there really wasn't even any tunnels anyway. Oh my god, I believe it. All saying, I freaking believe it. Oh my god. Probably, yeah, when they cross the state line. Why was that another theory about the FBI? And then the whole thing with what's his name? Because I don't know. It was really making me mad. Yes, that's exactly. It is. A lot of the times it is, and people want to like make. Oh, like I said, I know there's some crazy things that happen in the world. I know there's a crazy conspiracies. I'm all for it. Like there are a lot of crazy things, but for for some people, for every murder, go to these conspiracy theories, and most of these murders, there's not. It's not. It's like I don't know. Yeah, you sometimes you will have a corrupt officer or law enforcement person. You could have like a corrupt or a bad person. It doesn't make the whole thing like this big conspiracy on every case. There's bad in every profession. So you know what I'm saying? There might be like a bad one where you see like, oh my God, look, he lied there, he did that. But it's like, yeah, but okay, maybe that obviously it does happen sometimes, but that doesn't mean the whole thing is this big, huge, elaborate thing. But that's true what Steve said, man. That's huge because now it's never going to stop. I didn't even think about that. If they could have just negotiated that and like, because like what he could say what he did with the murder weapon and they could go find it. Hope maybe, you know what I'm saying? And bam, if they could actually find it, that would really shut up people. But also, if he could explain the different things that people are like, well, maybe how is there no DNA? How is there no this? How is there no that? If he could like explain why, that could shut up some people too. But we're gonna still have our crazy clowns or what. Anyway, all right. Well, let's watch this video here.
Order on anyone involved in the case, and that includes lawyers and investigators. NBC's Liz Kreutz has been following the story and has more on what that means.
That I can justify
this morning, a sweeping gag order lifted in Bryan Kohberger's quadruple murder case.
I think the rights of the public to information in this case is paramount, given the fact that a plea has been entered in this case.
The judge ruling the gag order isn't needed following Kohberger's confession to murdering University of Idaho students Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Ethan Chapin in 2022.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
With the trial no longer happening, a coalition of news organizations, including NBC News, asked the court to lift the order, which prohibited investigators and attorneys involved in the case from speaking publicly.
Now that Kohberger's pleaded guilty, there's not going to be a jury, so there's no jury pool to taint.
The gag order was issued early on amid intense media scrutiny and public interest in the case to ensure a fair trial.
Gag orders are incredibly rare in criminal trials. They're usually reserved for the most high-profile cases.
In an exclusive interview with Today, Ethan Chapin's parents, Jim and Stacy, told us the gag order served its purpose.
Was it good that there was this gag order? Did it let some of the theories spread?
Oh, I think the gag order was a good deal.
You could be angry over the gag order, or you could just understand that that's part of the legal process and how this is going to work, and you know, let those people do their job.
With the order now lifted, it's possible new and disturbing details about the brutal killings could come to light, something the Chapins were hoping to avoid.
We know what happened. as far as he was concerned. And I don't need to know anything else.
And you don't think the public needs to know?
I know there's pieces of it they don't need to know. It's not for public consumption.
And why would you need to know it? I mean, what's the gain on that, right? There's zero gain.
Okay. Let's play. I got this one. This one is called What to Expect at Brian Koberger's Sentencing. All right, let's see what this is. This is King 5. All right, let's see.
At the hearing, prosecutors will explain to the judge why they think the sentence they're recommending is appropriate. Defense attorneys will have the opportunity to do the same. Koberger can then give an allocution, a statement to the court where he could explain his actions and personal circumstances and potentially express remorse, something the public and family members have yet to hear.
Maybe he will.
This is where the hearing will be unpredictable. Victim impact statements, one of the only times in a judicial process where victims get to speak in court. Some read statements, some speak from the heart, some break down and can't speak at all. It's unclear exactly when the victims will share their statements. It's up to the judge if that comes before or after the attorneys and potentially Koberger address the court. Finally, Judge Hibbler will hand down Koberger's sentence. Of note, the judge is not bound by the plea agreement and can order a different, lesser sentence. If Hibbler sentences Koberger to life in prison as recommended, attorney Tara Malik says Koberger would be transferred quickly from Ada County into the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction, where he would spend the rest of his days in prison, most likely in solitary confinement. Given how brutal the crimes were and Koberger's history of social issues, attorneys tell me solitary is not only appropriate, it's necessary for his protection.
I used to be friends with.
Okay, next, let's see what else I got. Whoa.
Welcome back to Court.
Always Court TV with that freaking loud beginning. Sorry, blow your eardrums out. Vinny's got the worst, but I know, it's not personal, but dude, don't do it in the intro because sometimes people have their mic or their headphones up and then it comes on. I hate it. Anyway, all right, here we go.
For being with us. We will get you back to the attempted honor killing trial in Washington in just a moment. But first, we have an update on this month's surprising guilty plea for mass murderer Brian Koberger. Court TV's crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson was in the courtroom for that plea hearing in Idaho, now joining us live on set. Always great to see you. I'd love to hear what we expect from sentencing, but also I understand that we are hearing from some of the victims' family members for the first time.
We are. Nice to see you, Judge Ashley. So Ethan Chapman's family speaking out for the very first time since that shocking guilty plea. The guilty plea taking the death penalty off the table for confessed mass murderer Brian Koberger. Ethan's mother describing Koberger as cold and calculated, also robotic, as he confessed to the brutal murders, telling NBC News in a new exclusive interview that it was hard to hear the details about the murders, what's been shared already, but they are relieved that they don't have to live through a long, public, and painful trial. Take a listen.
I think our initial response was like an eye for an eye. But then we've spent a ton of time talking about it with prosecutors. And for us, we always felt like this was a better deal. He gets put away and there's no appeal system to it. And there were so many kids, including our own, that had been subpoenaed that no longer have this hanging over their heads. We just all get to go live our life.
Hearts go out to them. This is the first time that Jim and Stacy saw Koberger in person at that hearing. They were seated with the other victims' families, cornered off in the edge of the courtroom. I was there. They were breaking down in tears. It was just so palpable, so much emotion in that courtroom. And it's just tragic that they have to go through this, but they are relieved that they can move forward with their other children and just remember their son.
And I can't even, to your point, imagine thoughts and prayers with all of those families, all of the many victims, all of the friends. There are a lot of people that were affected by these murders. All right, so now tell us about sentencing and what's next.
Another big day, and we are possibly going to hear from not only family members, but the friends that you mentioned. Kohberger avoids the death penalty with this, right? And he's going to be sentenced to 4 life sentences behind bars, one right after the other. Something that some of the victims' family members and people in the community, they are angry over. They are up in arms. On July 23rd, next week, family members will be allowed to make those victim impact statements. Kaylee's family have stated publicly that they don't plan to attend out of protest. Ethan's parents, who you just heard from, telling NBC News once again in this exclusive interview that they will not attend, but for a different reason. Let's listen.
He's going to get what's coming to him. I really don't care what happens to the guy. He's off the streets. He can't hurt any more kids.
And that's the most important.
That's the most important thing.
They say that they have nothing to say to this cold-blooded killer, but they plan to hold a memorial on their boat with their family that day, a celebration of life for Ethan as they look forward. Now, the big question, Judge Ashley, in all of this that all of us keep on talking about is, will we ever hear a reason why? Will we ever get a reason for a motive? I mean, there's been some suggestions as to why, but will we hear from this killer? Because it's not really spelled out in this plea deal that's been made public.
No, great point, Matt. And had there been a trial, we still may not learn why, but I know people are going to be waiting to see. He has an opportunity to speak. Is he going to do that? Whew, thank you, Matt, as always, for your great coverage on that case.
Both of them died on the 7th of.
Oh, hold on one second. Okay. All right, I have one more I want to play. Oh, it's another
Convictions
Ashley.
and confessions.
Sometimes I don't even see
close
who.
cases, but they don't always solve mysteries.
This is what
And
handwriting
so it
reveals.
is with the vicious and senseless murders that Brian Kohberger admits that he committed in Moscow, Idaho, while never answering the second biggest question of all, which is why? Why did you do it? Why did you pick those 4? Why were you so brutal and cruel? Why did you want to kill 4 innocent kids? Legally, motive doesn't matter. So it did not come up in court, and it is nowhere in the documents that Brian Kohberger signed. Unless, of course, you see those documents through the eyes of a highly trained professional, which my next guest very much is. Bart Baggett is one of the world's leading forensic handwriting experts and has spent some quality time poring over Brian Kohberger's samples. Bart, it is so good to see you again. It's been forever and a day. I was really looking forward to talking to you about this. I'd love to hear your overall thoughts as you just looked at these signatures for the first time.
Well, Ashley, thanks for having me back on the show. I really thought maybe you're punking me because these signatures are so strange. I thought, is a 4th grader writing this or is this a drug addict? Like I didn't, and then I started following the story because I'm behind on it. And oh my gosh, this is one of the weirdest signatures I've seen from a convicted killer.
So let's sort of dig in. You know, he's got the signature on the plea agreement and on the confession. Do you, when you do your science, do you look at one particular sample? Do you compare to other samples? Or how do you ply your trade?
Well, I would love to have pages and pages of a diary. That would be the most secure thing. But one of the interesting things is one of these documents in 23, he forgets a lot of his letters. Like he's not even coherent enough to spell his own name. And then the 25 one, he spells his own name. But the most obvious thing is it just looks like a low skill level. And so that's the technical word. If somebody doesn't know how to write English or they're just learning how to sign their name in 3rd grade, they don't have the skill level. They don't have the neuromuscular repetition like you and I did hours and hours and hours in 3rd or 4th grade. So I was saying, I wasn't being flippant, like, is this a 4th grader or is this someone with brain damage? And so that was the problem, is it's like, what would cause someone with such a good education to literally have neuromuscular degeneration at 28 years old? It's a perplexing case.
So I was talking with my staff, and some of us are over 50 and some of us are under, 30. And we wondered if it might be a generational thing because, in a lot of schools, cursive went out the window. And so trying to create a signature, if you're not really, if you don't have good cursive muscle memory, might be tricky. Have you seen that in your practice?
I think that's a very fair argument. I have seen people under 30 and I'm like, wait a second, I can't be too judgy because if they didn't go to a school where they had hours and hours of handwriting, they may have low skill level. So that is true. I don't see how a guy gets a master's degree and PhD school without filling out hours and hours and hours of blue books. We know he's not from a different country. We know he's not just learning English. I think it has something to do with his heroin usage. I did a little research, and there's a lot of evidence that with heroin usage, if that's true, by the way, it does affect decision-making, motor control, fine motor coordination, tremors, and slow movement. That obviously is what we're seeing in the handwriting. So maybe it really is residual brain damage.
And what about, illness? Like, might he be suffering from any kind of illness given what you're seeing on the page?
Yeah, the most accepted forms of illness through handwriting are Parkinson's, dementia, and Alzheimer's. He's way too young to do those unless it's Parkinson's. Parkinson's is similar to what we're seeing here, but I didn't read about that in any of the footage. So no, I think he's not cognitively as sharp as we think he is. I think he's slow. I think he's nervous and anxious and untethered. And I don't think I can answer your first question of why, Ashley, but I don't trust the guy, and I feel like he's not all there.
Well, listen, I never thought this guy was much of a criminologist, I'll tell you that. And I was shocked that he got into a PhD program because this crime was a disaster from the get-go. I mean, just strategically thinking, he messed up from the moment he left his house and turned his phone off in the middle of the night and then turned it back on as he was driving back into his home. But let me ask you this. Overall state of mind. I almost felt like I'll call Bart because Bart's going to tell me that you can see rage and anger and hatred of women and all of this in the signature because I think you've been able to see that stuff before. Could you spot any of this in the scant samples that we have from Brian Kohberger?
Yeah, I would love to say that I spotted all that, but in this handwriting, all I have is a very slow person with no clear motivation. I think it's hard to string together thoughts, honestly. I think you're referring to other shows. You've got serial killers. You have all these masterminds of murder that plan ahead. They're articulate. They're precise. They're introverted. No, this guy's none of that. He's not a mastermind. He's kind of a, I don't use the word, but he's a little slow.
My signature looks so similar to his, but I was a recovering heroin addict too, so I wonder if that has something to do with it. But I'm left-handed. I don't know. Oh well, I'm not going to overthink it, but okay, so yeah, I definitely have really sloppy handwriting, but it's not that I don't know how to write cursive. Like if I really try, I mean, I know how to write it. Like, I mean, I think I'm old enough where we did write it in school, but I could see these days people aren't learning handwriting. They're freaking on typing and on their, it's so different now. I have another, is this a different interview? Hold on a second. That's what I'm trying to show you. Like, gosh, they do so many interviews. Like, why wouldn't they be in a documentary?
Joining us now are Kaylee Gonzalez's parents, Steve and Christy, and their attorney, Shannon Gray. Thank you both for being here this morning. Let me just start with both of you. I know it's been, thank you, 2.5 years now. It's long 2.5 years. The last few weeks, especially, I would imagine have been fairly difficult. How are both of you holding up as we sit here right now?
Tired, exhausted, at this point, ready just to move on, just to get this past us.
Trying to catch up a little bit too. We expected to go to trial this summer, and I had 250 hours set aside, had my schedule, had things going. So it was a radical change for us. So now we're just trying to wrap our head around this new development, and we're still a family. Still got to take care of ourselves. So we're moving on.
You've had a lot to wrap your head around for the past couple of weeks and sort of whiplash if you will, to have Brian Kohberger in court that day, admitting his guilt, admitting in open court everything he did. What was that like, even if you weren't in the actual courtroom for it? What was that like to hear him actually say he's guilty?
It was very surreal. It was very emotional to hear it. Something that, I don't think that we were ever really prepared to hear or think that we would hear. So, yeah, it was hard. It was definitely hard. I wish that, he would have had to say, maybe their names other than just simple yeses and nos. But
why?
Just, I think it shows a little bit more accountability and taking, owning up to what he did, to have to say the victims' names, our daughter's name, not just yes, yes, yes. I just feel like that was a really easy way to admit his guilt.
Yeah, I agree. We want to see some sternness when you see 4 lives lost. He wasn't even asked to stand. It's like, those are the type of things that we want to send a message. If you come after kids, people are going to put their foot down and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that those kids are, whoever did that is held to the accountability, the highest that there is. But, it was quiet.
You've been somewhat critical of the state and how all of this was handled from the very beginning. And as I understand it, you also, you wanted to go to trial. You did not want to see this plea deal come to fruition. Why?
We've seen all the rumors, all the things that are out there. A gag order just kind of turned it into just a big, huge mess of conspiracy. So we don't want to live that for the next 10, 15 years. So if our community came together and they were the ones that said he was guilty, then it's not us saying it or one person saying it. It's everyone saying that. So there's power in that. I believe in the court system. I believe in our juries. And that's what we were prepared to do.
Christy, do you worry there are questions you will never get answered as a result of this deal? Because he doesn't have to say exactly what his motive was. He doesn't have to say where the murder weapon is.
I think it's worse than that. I think we're going to find out secrets through his sick, twisted mind.
Why?
He's going to write about it. He's going to have interviews, exclusive interviews with his family members or certain people. And that's how we're going to hear about it.
And to be fair, that could happen because in this particular plea deal, there's nothing that forbids that.
Exactly.
What have you been told that we don't know surrounding what happened that night?
Nothing.
We asked them, can you just tell us the last moments of our daughter so when we have our victims' statements, we can be as accurate as possible. We don't want any lies in those statements. We want pure, and they wouldn't even give us the facts of what happened.
Just some details too. Yeah. That would be hard to know, but we want to know it. We want to know.
I don't want to hear it from the media. I'd rather hear it from, the investigators.
I read recently that the coroner did give you some more detail.
Yes.
What did the coroner say?
The coroner said that kind of gave us a breakdown of the wounds and the ways that she had passed away. She'd definitely been stabbed multiple times, and they kind of described it as like a drowning that can occur. But she did say gagging. There was some gagging, and she was he struck her in the face, and
she had a broken nose. She had subdural hematomas. She had asphyxial injuries. She had some defense wounds on her arms.
Yeah.
And stabbed many, many times. But how many we don't know.
And that should be part of the victim's impact statement. And we shouldn't be robbed of that. We should know all those details, and we don't want to say something that isn't accurate. Like we've heard the amount of times that she was stabbed, but we don't know from the actual fact finders.
Shannon, bring you in here. These parents have had to live a literal nightmare for almost 3 years now. Are there other documents that you want to see be made public that could provide them with some of the answers?
Well, we had a meeting with the prosecutors already asking about a full disclosure of all the discovery in the case. If you go through the normal course, you'd be public disclosures, public records requests for the next 2 to 3 years to try to get everything. So we've asked about that ahead of time because we want a full copy of the discovery because we don't have any answers. They don't have any answers. And it allows us to go through. They can redact whatever they need to redact, but then bring that in, and it's the Idaho State Police, it's the FBI, it's the Moscow Police Department that we would all request. And so they promised us that, and we're hoping that they keep their promise.
Steve, Christy, what do you want the world to remember about your little girl?
Just like Kaylee was just so fun. She was extremely smart. She had a beautiful smile, an amazing laugh, everything. I mean, everything about Kaylee was amazing, honestly. She just...
Very dedicated, hard worker. She's going to graduate with her degree a year early.
Yeah.
So she was going to light the world on fire, and we're missing her. We're missing her.
Yeah, every day, everything about her, everything. If I could hear her laugh, hear her voice, see her smile.
Can't imagine it. Just can't imagine it. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for...
Man. Ooh, crazy. Yeah, one more.
Two of these roommates have been childhood best friends, Kaylee Gonsalves and Maddie Mogan.
They did absolutely everything together. First dates, first boyfriends, graduated high school. They had their first heartbreaks together. Kaylee was 12, 13 years old. They're blasting Taylor Swift in the basement, comforting each other. I have never experienced before two human beings who just understand and love each other on that kind of level.
You got one good friend, you can get through everything, and that's what they had.
To know Kaylee was to love Kaylee. Kaylee, she was like the protector. If we needed honestly anything, she would just do it. I remember I had like a professor I was having a hard time with. She's like, Katie, sit down. I'll call the dean for you. I'll draft the email. We'll figure it out. She was in everyone's corner. She was the voice for people who didn't have the voice.
If I had one or two words to describe Maddie Mae, it would be just an angel. She just made me proud.
One of the other roommates was a young woman named Xana Kernodle. She was a junior, and she belonged to the same sorority as Madison Mogan.
I've never met someone like Santa before, ever. She opened her arms wide and let me in her life the day I met her. Her biggest joy in life was to be happy and to make others happy. Santa and Ethan were two peas in a pod. They were goofy. They both had a beautiful smile. They were both kind.
My first impression of Ethan was he's just this huge dude that you wouldn't really approach, but as soon as you really got to know him, you realized that he's like one big teddy bear. Our mutual love for country music is really what brought us together. We'd gravitate toward each other because we'd be singing these country songs. We really got along.
Oh, that was good. I want to see I want to see more of that. Dang it. I know when that the last episode on the day in Idaho or one day in Idaho. Why do I can't get that right? I'm always a word off. But when that last one, I was like, no, I want more. It was so good. Let me see. Hold on. One night in Idaho. One night in Idaho. Yeah, it's so good, man. Anyway, well, doesn't look like anybody really wants to come up, right? So I was trying to get some people in chat saying hi, because if people don't want to say hi, they're obviously not gonna want to come up on panel. But it doesn't look like anybody that's chatting would want to come up. I feel like because it's like which is fine, but that's why I could tell. I didn't want to throw out the link and then just have some freaking whatever. I'm talking about people will come up and flash you to ruin your life. That's happened, 3 times to me, 3 or 4 times. So you have to pull down your live and then, oh gosh, I shouldn't be giving people ideas. Well, I don't do that anymore. Now I make that you guys show your face behind. backstage. But I just don't want to have to deal with that if nobody wanted to come. You know, if you were interested in maybe doing an open panel on Idaho, I really want to do it on Idaho. Will you email me and then we could kind of set it up and I'll already have your email. And then when I go live, I could email you the link. So we could have like a planned thing for with a couple people. Ideally, I would like to probably have like 4 people, like maybe 4 of us. That'd be perfect. I mean, if there's more, that'd be awesome. But like 4 of us up there, wouldn't that be perfect? We each have our own corner of the screen, and then we we could talk this way or that way. Oh my god, I'm being silly, but wait, why are you saying well, JT? Wait, did I say something wrong? I'm probably not coming out right. What did I say? I didn't mean that in a bad way. What I was saying, I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I was just saying we'll try to do a panel another day. But that's why I kind of want to do it. Like, let me know if you're interested, and we could kind of plan something, you know. But I kept my eye on chat to see, like, okay, does it look like we could? Anybody would want it? Oh, yes. I forget sometimes what I say. I'm silly, JT. Yes, they do. And this is what they do. And I guess I shouldn't be giving people ideas, but if they're going to do it, they already know this is what they do. Okay. So it's a thing. They'll pick somebody that's like a regular that's in chat or that's at least in chat. They'll take their profile picture and their name. So then when you go on StreamYard or whoever's using whatever streaming program anybody's using. A lot of people use StreamYard when they have a guest. It's really easy. So you could when you use StreamYard, you put a picture and then you could put your name. So they would take the picture, the profile picture of whoever's in chat. Usually, twice I think they used Amanda, but a lot of times they'll even pick a regular. Okay, they'll put their name. So then you add them backstage and you're like, oh, Amanda, cool. And you add them on up. You think it's your mod. Well, Amanda was a mod, or, your regular Amanda or somebody that's viewed that oh, yeah. So you add them up, and then a couple seconds in, they'll flash something. So I've had somebody have their phone pointed down and just pull down his pants. So I've had that. I've had somebody have where they had 2 people going at it like they're having sex on the bed, but that one you could tell what they did is they put like a video, so you could tell it wasn't live, so they weren't like live having sex. It was like probably some kind of video that I think it was 2. No, maybe it wasn't 2 men. I don't know, but I feel like he was getting her from behind and they're on the bed, and they and I think what it was is just a video on the screen instead of them, like the people weren't actually having sex. It was somebody else putting somebody else having, so that it would ruin your life. But the one was the guy. He just like had it like from his waist down and pulled down his pants. So that one was live. You could tell. And then sometimes when people do videos, and then they did it again where they were putting something. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was he was putting something in his butt or something, or was somebody else putting it in or something. It was like somebody sticking something in somebody's butt, like it was like right there, very graphic. So it was like PORN, basically, like the 2, you could tell it was just somebody putting it up on the screen. So then when I added him, so when you first add, they'll have the name with the person. So you add him, hey, Amanda, and they take like a couple seconds and then share their screen, and that's it. And then it's like, but I'm pretty quick. Like I'm usually quick and I get it down really quick. I'm like, oh shoot. But it's like, I don't want to take a chance of it. Cause you can't have that on YouTube. So I don't want to take a chance of like going against YouTube policy. Even if I explain like, hey, I got flashed. It wasn't my fault. It was like a second I got it down. So instead of just like taking a chance of them, giving you some kind of strike for policy, even though it wasn't your fault. And if they watched it, they could see, I just take it down. So it's like, I'm done ruining my lives, because those happen actually pretty close together those 3 times. So then I'm like, nope, you have to show me your face behind, like show me your face backstage before I add you. So then therefore you want to play the game in Flash? I know who you are. I'll screenshot your face. You know what I'm saying? So most people are not going to show you their face if they're going to do that. But yes, but that happens. That doesn't just happen to me. It's happened to a lot of, I mean, it happens when people do open panels. So you just got to be careful. Yeah. Yeah. What did they show on that one? I was saying, I don't remember. That then maybe I had 4. So there was one, oh my God. So when I was doing that Kylie case, oh my God, I was having so many people come on open panel. Like that time it was just tons of people. And like I couldn't, I think you could have 10 or 12 backstage. So there was always people waiting to go backstage because you can only hold so many backstage. So I had to like try to rotate them out. Just so many people were trying to get on. So it always had a ton of people. So one time I had to go to the bathroom. So I just added a few people up and went to the bathroom. Well, one of the people I added was a flasher. I can't remember what was it I was saying. So therefore I didn't catch it that quick because I walked away. But didn't I for some reason I didn't go to the bathroom because didn't I have my phone or something? I walked away, but I came back. I don't think I actually went to the bathroom. I think for some reason I caught it quick where I came back in quick because I saw it or something, right? If I'm remembering right. But do you remember what they were doing? I don't know. I know. But yeah, and I swear to God, 2 of them had Amanda as the name. I swear, poor Amanda, because Amanda was in chat those times too. Like this is when she was pretty active in live chats and stuff. And she's like, oh my God. And she's actually said that they did it. They were her name on another live chat, flashing somebody else. They used her. I think a couple other live streams, they used her name. So maybe it was somebody that had it out for Amanda. They're like, you know what? I don't like her. I'm going to use her. Even though once you see it happen, it's not her that's doing it. But it's just kind of embarrassing because like now people see Amanda's face, her name, and then that's what comes up. But yeah, dude, because I was doing open panels a lot that time. So that 3 or 4, because so now I don't know. I'll say I know why her. The other ones I don't remember who were the other. I don't remember what the name was on the other couple, but oh my God. Right, JT. What I think it is I think it's nobody that's like a necessarily true crime community. I think it's people. Sometimes it could be a personal attack. They don't like you. They want to ruin your life. But I do think there's also people that come into when they see open panels. So they try to find any like live open panels to do it just because they're trolls. So it's probably, I think a lot of times it's not even personal. They're just trolls looking for an open panel link to like have their little fun because they probably think it's funny and fun. And I'm sure some are personal attacks where they want to ruin your life, but it's crazy. It's like, dang it, I got to take down the live. It ruins the whole thing. No, what I do is, what did I do? Because I could probably clip it out. So you have to take it down at least for sure right away because, well, at least I do because I don't want a chance like, oh my God, it being up. But then I think I took down some completely, and then some I think I was able to clip it out. But here's the thing: if a live stream is over 6 hours, you can't edit it. And I was doing long live streams for Kylie. So I think a couple of those times I couldn't edit it out because it was over 6 hours. So I had to just basically throw away the whole live. But I think there was one, or at least one, that I was able to clip out. I remember so it just cut that part out and then I was good. But I think the other ones I took down because it was long. But yeah. Yeah, right, Marnie. So wait, is this new to everybody? I was thinking like most people knew this. How many people this is like new to? Like you've never heard of this? Is there a word for it? I just heard like flashing. I don't know. How many people? I'm curious. Now put a 1 if you've heard this, you've seen it before. Put a 2 if it's all new to you. I'm just curious. Oh. But yeah, it's a crazy world out there. I mean, people are, I don't know. I mean, I guess some people just get a kick out of it, but I mean, yeah, there is like, see, I looked up those like yesterday and today, some of those videos, but now if I type it in now, there's probably new stuff. Crime probe, Brian Cooper. Let me see. No, I guess not really. They got everybody's interviewing that chief.
He calls the
No,
age
no, no,
rewinder
get her out
method.
of here. Or sorry, that was too loud. All right, guys. So, like I said, look out for McDaniel's that interview. I'm still debating if I should do it as a premiere where all I could do is chat. But oh my god, a part of me wants to be live with it so I could like be up here and say stuff. I don't know. The Stephen McDaniels. This is so good. Those interviews. Like, I'm sorry that the first one kind of was maybe all over the place. That intro to the Steve McDaniels, it was like my whole purpose was I didn't have a lot prepared because I just wanted it to introduce the case. All I was going to do, give the summary, kind of talk about it and play that interview from the news. That's all I really was going to do, just so I kind of introduced you to the case, kind of, and then I was just gonna do the rest where when I release all this stuff that it made sense of what the case was. So that's why I didn't have anything prepared. But when I did it, it felt like, wait, that was so short. I just felt like there needs to be something else. Like it felt weird to end it that short. So that's why I was like, well, maybe I could do this. Oh, I wanted to read. Wait, hold on. I forgot. I wanted to read the allocution. Those 2 things that I read, that first one that he wrote, the 2 things that he wrote. That's what I was going to do. I was going to read. That was the plan. Read those, play the interview, the news interview, and just talk about the case a little bit. So that's why I was kind of all over the place because I didn't have a plan. So I'm over here looking like, oh, what else to do? I need to just stick with my plan, and just, that's what I was going to do. Just do it and then end it and then do my Brian Koberger video. It just seems so weird ending it that short. But yeah, I think that's why a lot of times when it is like all over is because I want to like when I'm done with what I had planned, I want like, oh, I don't want to end it. And I feel like I have to keep going. But so yeah, I don't know, guys. Take a vote. Premiere for the McDaniels interviews or just I think I will do a premiere though. I'd like premieres though. Instead of doing pre-records, I'm gonna they do end up in the pre-record section. So it's basically a pre-record, but it lets you have a live chat during the show. You pick a time where you see, and then you could actually be in the live chat. I like that. I think I'm really gonna probably do a lot of my pre-records like that. So I might do that tomorrow. I don't know. I could anytime. You guys, it's so good though, those interviews. They're so funny. I mean, shoot. I don't know if I'm missing out on an opportunity to have like a really kind of fun live if I did it as a live. I'm gonna sit there and go back and forth in my head on what to do. Now I'm just worried because I feel like since I was kind of all over the place for that first Steve McDaniels one, and it was just like, I feel like I hope it doesn't turn people off watching the other ones coming up. Why don't I just go with what I have planned, guys? I never could do that in my head. I always doubt myself. All right, I'm gonna go to bed. Yeah, Steven. Or I could maybe do, gosh, I got other stuff. Don't forget if you guys want wait, is anybody in here that is in my Patreon that's heard the the calls? What are your thoughts on that? And if you did join my Patreon or you are gonna join my Patreon, remember you could comment, please comment even under the the videos in there because I'm dying to know people's thoughts. I keep going back to look at comments, but there's not many. There's only a couple because I just want to. It's just I want to know what you guys are thinking about those the Paul and baby girl calls because they are freaking hilarious. Oh my god, I want to get a conversation because I'm dying to like talk about it. So, like I said, if you are a Patreon, just comment in there if you have thoughts because you can, and we can. Oh my god, they're hilarious, guys. I'm not just saying that. Oh my god. Stephen McDaniels, that, yeah. I'm talking about a million different things, and then I'm talking about my Patreon with the Paul calls too. Oh my lord, guys. It's definitely, if you follow that case and you were into, like, the whole baby girl and Paul, story, I think you will wanna join and I just wanna talk to people about them. And it's funny because I haven't listened to them in, what, over a year now? So, like, re-listening because, I mean, I got those when I got the other calls, but like I said, I couldn't put them on YouTube, so, I'm re-listening to them because I had originally listened to them because I had to listen to all the calls before I released them to see, if any doxing or, like, something like that. I couldn't release that on YouTube, and, oh my god, it's making me, like, all the memories back of that case and, like, that whole situation. It's so funny. Yeah, if you don't know, you would be. But I got a playlist if you wanna catch up on that case. You can, but but if not, to just jump right into those calls, you wouldn't be able to appreciate them really if you haven't followed any of the calls of the cases. So, yeah, I get that, but it's never too late to catch up on the whole case, so because she is gonna maybe be back in the news. I mean, I think they'll just deny her request for a trial, but she's trying to get a new trial, so at least there'll be one hearing, Shonda. Um, but yeah. Oh, I see. Well, no, but they'll know because if you're oh, I see, because only the creator would know who joins, so you don't want everybody else to know that. But look at it like this, Marnie. If anybody sees your comment, it's because they're listening too, and they're on Patreon too listening. And so you shouldn't even be ashamed because uh phone calls for prison would know who joined, and then anybody else that sees the comment on it are in the same boat as you. So don't be ashamed to look as far as even the Paul calls, you guys comment because if you comment, the people that are seeing it are the people that are interested in watching them too. So seriously. I'm not just saying that. If you have followed that, you would get a kick out of it. But if you haven't, then yeah, you definitely wouldn't. It's definitely I don't think you'll be disappointed. I really don't. I have to get another call out. I gotta do that. I should do that. I'll probably put another one out tomorrow, so there'll be 4 out. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. Bye.